Next man up, 102.5 The Game. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly with you on this Tuesday morning. We are broadcasting live from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. Going to be a fun show today. Lots to get into. Titans coaching search rolling along as they interview anyone with a pulse at this point who has NFL head coaching experience. We'll talk some college football, the Vols quarterback situation, the Preds finishing up a homestand tonight. Nick Frazier, how's it going?
Fantastic. A beautiful Tuesday. A little chilly, but I think it's going to get up to, 60-something today? Right?
Yeah, it's a nice day, at least. Sun is shining. So
tomorrow's going to be 38, which is
right.
I don't get Nashville weather, but, lived here my whole life. Who cares?
I mean, it is what it is. It's one day it's going to be in the 60s. The next day it's going to be freezing.
Yeah.
That's where we are.
Just like the Preds. One day they win, one day they lose.
At least, knock on wood, we have not gotten snow yet, which
it's true.
Just crossing my fingers for that. I like a little bit of snow during the winter, but it just makes everything so much more difficult.
Yeah. Just driving here in the snow. I mean, I got a four-wheel drive car, but nobody wants to just drive in it.
Right. It just, stresses me out a little bit trying to get in here every day. So knock on wood, no snow so far. Last night, Texans Steelers was a close defensive struggle for a while, and then the wheels fell off for the Packers. 2 defensive touchdowns for the Texans, and Houston wins 30-6 in the Steel City. Possibly the end of Aaron Rodgers' historic NFL career, and maybe the end of the Mike Tomlin era in Pittsburgh after he fails to win a playoff game for, I believe, the 9th straight season.
Yeah, they have 10 total playoff losses, something like that.
Yeah, I think his last playoff win was the 2016 divisional round.
Yikes. I heard Ryan Clark last night after the broadcast, and I think it was Scott Van Pelt that asked him, what should Mike Tomlin do? What should the Steelers do? And, I mean, Ryan Clark said, well, I don't think it's up to the Steelers. It's up to what Mike Tomlin wants to do because he's built that cachet. I'm just thinking, yes, but he doesn't own the franchise, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
He can't be the guy that landlocks the decision. So I think the Pittsburgh Steelers have a lot to go through and comb through, that is, this offseason, and hopefully they find their answers.
The Steelers are not the type of team to make a knee-jerk reaction. I would guess we get some sort of news today. I don't think they're firing him because of the loss last night. I think if you fire him, it's because there's just been a ceiling on what this team has been able to do basically since the Killer Bees, right? Mm-hmm. When it was Roethlisberger and Le'Veon and AB, that team, you felt every year like they were a contender to go to the Super Bowl, even though I guess they really never did they?
No.
With that group?
Yeah, I think it was 2010, 2009 when they beat the Cardinals.
Right. I guess I guess that was the last time. Yeah. Or was the Packers once? Did they go? Those were back-to-back years. It was
2011.
Right. It's been 15 years since they've gone to the Super Bowl, but those teams every year you viewed them as Super Bowl contenders. That's not how the Steelers are viewed anymore. And a lot of that has to do with just not having the quarterback. Right. I mean, the last few years it's been Kenny Pickett and Russell Wilson / Justin Fields and now Aaron Rodgers. It's impressive that Mike Tomlin has gotten this team to 10 wins 3 straight years with the quarterbacks that he's had. But the Pittsburgh Steelers, that is not what they're looking for. They want a 7th Super Bowl ring. And right now, Mike Tomlin, maybe they are starting to believe that he's not the guy who's going to be able to get them there.
Maybe. You're right though, Jake, talking about the Steelers of old and how they've kind of evolved into this team that always has a really good defense, but yet can't seem to get over the hump on the offensive side of the football. And I think having Rodgers this past season for them, if he does decide to come back for another year, that'd be a beautiful thing for the game of football, that is. But they have Will Howard out of Ohio State. I wonder how much Will Howard is absorbed as a backup quarterback under Aaron Rodgers. Because, I mean, again, Jordan Love had a little bit more time with Rodgers in Green Bay, but it makes you wonder how much can be absorbed in one season as Rodgers at the helm. Because, look, Will Howard did a pretty good job with Ohio State, leading them to a national title. And I think that's something that the Steelers saw. It was a winning pedigree. And if you can evolve that into being NFL caliber, they should be in okay hands.
I do like Will Howard. I don't think I like him enough. And again, the people in the building know way more than I do, but I would think that you can't go into next year believing Will Howard is 100% your starting quarterback, but maybe it makes sense for them You got Will Howard, a guy you think has some potential, and you bring in a Malik Willis, possibly, and you say, we're going to let you two compete, and we'll see what happens at that point, because they're not going to be in position to pick a quarterback this year. They're going to be picking in the 20s, and you're not going to be able, unless they want to repeat the Kenny Pickett era. I don't think there's anybody worthy of taking at the spot that they're at. I doubt they want to trade massive draft capital to move up from 18, 19, 20 to 1, 2, 3. So I think that might be their best option, is give Will Howard a chance to go win the job in training camp. And if he ends up being good, great. If not, they're probably going to be in position to pick high in the draft in 2027. I do wonder, if you don't let go of Tomlin now, when? Like, are you waiting for him to have a bad season? Because he's never had a losing season. Are you waiting for the time where you can do it and say, all right, he finally took a big step back, we can fire him? I just feel like at some point, maybe a mutual agreement to part ways makes the most sense. The Steelers, that is a franchise that doesn't move on from head coaches easily, but it does feel like now is kind of that critical crossroads of maybe Tomlin could do better with a change of scenery, and maybe the Steelers are due for a new voice in that locker room.
Yeah, a new voice. You're right. I think I wouldn't say a new direction, but definitely a new voice, because I think Cam Hayward's been kind of linked to possibly calling it quits for a career as well.
Yeah.
And you wonder if Aaron Rodgers calls it quits. I'm sure all of them go out all at once. And if that is the case, do you try to move off of TJ Watt? Because if you move off TJ Watt, find yourself a decent head coach, then you're able to kind of retool pretty quick. And that's something that the Steelers are probably not accustomed to, but yet it would put them back in the driver's seat to be contenders in the AFC.
If Mike Tomlin did come available, do you think that's somebody the Titans should go all in on? I know Harbaugh seems to be the number one choice out there right now. Everybody, pretty much every job, based on the reports, is kind of waiting to see what John Harbaugh does.
Yeah.
The reports yesterday of the Falcons putting out we have interviewed John Harbaugh, and then Adam Schefter saying, well, kinda. Every single team that has a job open that's not the Ravens has had a phone call with John Harbaugh. So sure, if you've interviewed John Harbaugh, so is everybody. But I think Tomlin would add a little bit of a wrinkle to that situation, where not only do you have one established Super Bowl winning head coach out there on the market, you got two. And yes, that might bode well for the Titans if they feel like they are in a position to get one of them. But you also add the Steelers' job to the market, which I'm sure will be attractive just because of the history and the stability of that franchise, that somebody who could be an attractive candidate for the Titans outside of Tomlin and Harbaugh might end up going to Pittsburgh.
Yeah, you mentioned Tomlin, possibly Titans option to interview him. It is like a Harbaugh 2.0. If I had to choose between Harbaugh and Tomlin, I would lean Harbaugh. I feel like the ceiling's a little bit higher with him. Nothing against Tomlin. It's just that 8-8, 9-8 record is just, yes, it's a winning record. It's not a losing record, but it's something that just kind of gravitates me away from that.
I do wonder, though, if Tomlin gets the quarterback back, like if he believes in Cam Ward and Cam Ward ends up being the guy, I think that could elevate Mike Tomlin back to being what he used to be. I don't know if I would lean Tomlin. I'd be thrilled with either one of them.
Sure.
Right? Like if you told Titans fans when they fire Brian Callahan in October, you're going to get Mike Tomlin or John Harbaugh, everybody would have been over the moon. And that might be possible. Again, Tomlin there's been no reports that he's been fired or that they're calling it quits, but we might get something like that today based on the way things ended this year.
I don't know. When you mentioned Tomlin, if Titans fans would sign up for that, I don't know if they really would. I think they would sign up for it as oh man, this kind of reminds us of the Jeff Fisher days, the 8-8s, the 9-8s. Like, I think that's what really comes to mind for Titans. For me, it does as a fan, because again, Jeff Fisher, great coach, took this team to different standards for sure, different levels. But yet I think this fan base is evolving quicker and they're hungrier for more wins. And again, when this whole coaching carousel began for the Titans, it was, Mike McCarthy. On paper, everybody was signing up for a 12-5 season. Now we're getting to the nitty-gritty of, wait a minute, let's really exercise our options. Let's go find that real guy.
Well, I understand that sentiment, because this team is not very far removed from competing for a Super Bowl and feeling like that was the expectation. When you're the 1 seed in the AFC, you think that you are going to go to the Super Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
So that was the expectation. You've got 6 wins in the last 2 seasons. You're in no position to be turning down Mike Tomlin or John Harbaugh right now. If they want to come coach your team and you think that they can get this team back to just being competitive, that's number one. Then you add the pieces and the players who you hope can get you back to being a Super Bowl contender. But right now, this team is in no position to turn down somebody of the pedigree of John Harbaugh or Mike Tomlin.
That's fair. I'm more looking more at the Tomlin aspect of this. Harbaugh for sure. I just think if you sign up for that, you want to do a small deal, like maybe 3 years, give or take. Because if you go sign a 4 or 5 year deal for a head coach like that, and you're stuck with the 9-8, and you're thinking, well, how do we get out of this? Amy doesn't want to go sign another check like that.
Yeah, I mean, I think 9-8 for a couple of years would be okay with Titans fans. Eventually, the bar gets raised, but yeah. I think 9-8, if you could do that next year, that's huge.
Oh, yeah.
Huge stuff. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. Our text line, we've got a couple of people all thinking along the same lines. Ken goes Harbaugh to Pittsburgh. Mark says, calling it now, Tomlin to the Ravens. And Benjamin says, AFC North can do the funniest thing and just switch coaches. How funny would that be if we've spent all this time talking about Harbaugh, Tomlin, and they just swap sides of that rivalry? Harbaugh to the Steelers, Tomlin to the Ravens.
I mean, I wouldn't say it makes sense, but for the circumstances around Pittsburgh, for Harbaugh, it would make sense. Because last week when Chase and McJoe were chatting, it was the Harbaugh wants $20 million for a contract, $10 million for a coaching staff, wants to have full roster say over everybody. I get that because that works in Pittsburgh for him.
I don't know if that, like, those demands, it's coming from Tony Grossi with Cleveland, and he's a respected reporter up there. I don't know how firm those are. We talked about this yesterday. Like, if John Harbaugh wants to go to the Titans, if he talks with Mike Borgonzi, they have a good rapport, he loves Cam Ward, is he really going to say, nope, I'm not coming here unless I get full roster control? I think it's probably, hey, I want to be included in all of the decisions, but I just don't see him. If there's a place that he feels like he can have the most success, I don't see him strong-arming that franchise for full roster control if he thinks that is the best option for him. Maybe he does. I don't know. But I think John Harbaugh realizes that this is probably his last chance. He's in his 60s. And if he finds a place that he feels like he can have success, I don't think he's going to get into this power struggle when it could end up leading him to not being able to get that job.
Yeah, it's fair. It could also be some agent speak, because you know how agents, they like their money as well. So that might be something in there to add on to the conversation, which is very possible. But as for Harbaugh, yeah, I think you're kind of spot on with it, Jake, that he could loosen up the requirements. Let's put it that way.
I think you put out a high bar, but I don't think he's going into interviews and handing that list over like a writer and saying, you fulfill these or I'm not coming here. I think there is some flexibility, some malleability based on how much he wants a certain job.
Yeah.
But we'll see. We don't know if the Titans are officially going to get an in-person interview, but we will talk about it coming up next. Another report came out yesterday that John Harbaugh, at the very least, is intrigued by the Titans job as he starts to narrow down his list. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. Our phone line's driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. We will get to your phones. We will get to your texts. And again, continue to talk Titans coaching search. 18 names currently on the interview list, and that does not include John Harbaugh, so maybe could get to 19 by the end of the day. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly, next man up, 102.5 The Game.
building, people that are respected throughout the league. In the front office here, I think we have a young rookie quarterback that is ascending. Obviously, be a second-year player next year. I think we have a young nucleus of players that you can build on here, that have started to kind of build this culture the way we want it to be. Um, Jeff Simmons. I mean, who wouldn't want to coach Jeff Simmons on defense? We have the city of Nashville. Really, I mean, it's a great place to live, and we have a new stadium coming. So there's a lot of really good positive things to come here. But the first thing is the people in the building. We have a lot of experience here throughout the building, a lot of good people, and we have support from our ownership group, and Amy supports us in everything that we do here. So yeah, those are really the reasons why I think this will be a really attractive place for a coach.
That was Mike Borgonzi last week talking about what makes the Titans' job attractive when compared to, at that point, the other 5 openings. Now there are 7, could be more as early as today. We were speculating about Mike Tomlin possibly being, I doubt he would be fired, but a mutual parting of ways, and we'll see if we get any news on that later today. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly with you on this Tuesday. Talking about John Harbaugh, because that is the big fish that is currently out there on the market. Every team seems to want John Harbaugh, and I think that domino probably has to fall before we see a bunch of other jobs coming off the market. Maybe there are teams, the Cardinals, the Browns, or something like that, where Harbaugh's told them, hey, probably not going to come to you. Maybe they go in another direction. But I think a lot of teams are holding out hope for John Harbaugh, and then they'll go back to their other candidates once they find out whether they win the sweepstakes. But John Harbaugh, we haven't really heard too much about official sit-down interviews. Adam Schefter reported yesterday after the Falcons put out their official interview announcement that everybody has basically had that interview with John Harbaugh, talking on the phone. It was reported last night that Chris Mara, the brother of the owner for the Giants, did sit down at John Harbaugh's house over the weekend. The Giants, I would put the Giants at about a 60% chance of closing this. But there was a report yesterday, Mike Garafolo from the NFL Network put out there that John Harbaugh likes what he sees from the Titans, mentioned specifically Cam Ward having $100 million in cap space, a high draft pick, the new stadium, and Mike Borgonzi as things that could be attractive for John Harbaugh. Titans could just be being used as leverage here. But it does seem, based on the smoke that we've seen, reports from Albert Breer, Diana Rossini, Mike Garafolo, that John Harbaugh is seriously considering the Titans. And I would expect that they're going to get an in-person interview sometime this week. And at that point, we'll see what happens.
Yeah, and look, before John Harbaugh was on the market to be a head coach for a potential franchise, I believe it was Sunday Night Football. Jason Garrett mentioned the Titans. It's a really good job. Like he talked about it in high praise.
That was after he had interviewed, though.
Yeah, and I'm thinking in my head, I'm like, if that's the case, and again, it's the smokescreen aspect of it. You're just trying to pump that Titans job to the national media, saying it's a good job. So anybody that comes into the doors, you're really going to have an opportunity to win here. I think that's the same thing, but the Titans are using Harbaugh to that leverage.
Yeah, I could see both sides of Harbaugh and his agent want to get as much out of the Giants as possible, so there have to be other suitors. And for the Titans, they want everybody nationally to think their job's really good. And I could see that being the play here. But the more reports that come out, the more I think that Harbaugh at least is going to hear the Titans out. I said yesterday, less than 20% chance that he's the Titans head coach. I would still stay there. But it's good to see the Titans are at least in the conversation here, because guess what? If Mike Tomlin does come loose, maybe they're going to be a contender for him. And that bodes well for the other guys out there, the 18 other guys the Titans are interviewing, that likely whoever their top choice ends up being, if they offer him the job, if it is viewed as an attractive job, it's more likely that they end up taking it.
Yeah. Also, when Penn State was left in basically disarray trying to figure out who their next head coach is, like it was Matt Campbell. And obviously the online threads for Penn State was, I think Matt Campbell's been the guy all along. I know, that's what I'm just saying, like, just reading about it. Like, that's kind of how I feel about the Titans right now is, everybody was all hyped up about Matt Nagy at the start of all this. This is, to me, I think, a smokescreen. Interview all the big name guys. It's going to end up potentially being Matt Nagy.
It is funny with the Matt Nagy stuff. Where's the smoke gone on Nagy? And I still wouldn't rule Nagy out, but typically when there's a front runner for a job, you usually see this around the NFL. When they interview, there's some sort of report of the Titans were really impressed with Matt Nagy or something like that. He's going to be a serious contender for this job, something like that. We haven't heard anything. They interviewed him last Thursday.
Yeah.
And not saying that doesn't necessarily mean he's not going to get the job. But if he was this number one contender that the Titans have had circled the entire time, I feel like we would see more smoke post-interview of things went well, Nagy in serious consideration for the job. I haven't seen any of that. I think the Titans are I mean, we've seen they're kicking the tires on everybody. 18 different interview requests out there, and most of them have been scheduled. 14 of them are former NFL head coaches. Titans have a type.
Yeah. They want leadership.
I thought they were going to lean that way with the experience because of what Brian Callahan lacked as a head coach, but I didn't think it would be this heavy. Like, they're interviewing every single fired head coach as long as they interview Harbaugh.
Right.
They're interviewing every single fired head coach from this year except for their own Brian Callahan and Pete Carroll. That's it.
Wow. Because
Brian Daboll and Jonathan Gannon were just announced that they're going to get interviews with the Titans as well. So I like it. I like turning over every stone. Mike Borgonzi, it's a learning experience. Maybe some of these guys you're just trying to get some information out of. Maybe some of them are viewed more as coordinator candidates, but they're turning over every stone, and most of those stones have NFL head coaching experience.
Yeah, and it goes down to the point of, with all those stones being turned over, if those are true leaders. Now it comes to the actual leadership role. Even Borgonzi spoke on that last week of just like trying to find that alpha dog kind of guy. And to me, that's where you can kind of start narrowing down the list. Obviously, you have the experience of all these head coaches, but which one of those are true leaders? And I think that's where the list starts to shrink.
Right. It's weird looking through this list because there were some of them that I was even forgetting had like Steve Spagnuolo. You don't think of him as former head coach, but he's a former NFL head coach, just long removed from it.
Right.
The only non-NFL head coaches the Titans are interviewing, Lou Anarumo was last week, and then today, I believe Jesse Minter and Jeff Hafley are interviewing, and then Chris Shula. That's it. All the other candidates have been an NFL head coach at some point. I'm just waiting for, Bill Belichick to get a call. Jeff Saturday, would you like to come in for an interview? You coached a few games back in the day.
I think he is only able to coach any Indianapolis Colts teams going forward. I mean, that's a weird family dynamic in Indianapolis.
Yeah.
Like Phillip Rivers, I'll get rid of my Hall of Fame eligibility to go play for you guys for 3 games.
He wanted his health insurance back.
Oh, that too. Yeah. It ran out after 5 years.
Yeah,
brilliant move on his part.
He reset.
Brilliant move.
With 11 kids or whatever it is. Yeah. Get 5 more years of health care.
Smart.
He's playing chess, not checkers. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. Let's go to our phone lines, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Trey is on the line. Trey, thanks for calling. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. How y'all doing?
Doing great.
Hey, I just wanted to say that I think Nashville would be on the top of the list as far as destinations to come coach at. For number one, we have excellent weather. The only games we play in the cold is toward the end of the season. That's great. No state sales tax. The competition level is winnable. I think in the next couple of years, we'll probably be on the top of the AFC South again. We have decent players. He is going to have to recruit, and get a couple decent players off of free agency. But he needs to focus on the third tier of the roster, which is, safeties, cornerbacks. I think Jim Harbaugh is good, but I think Malik Willis hit his ceiling, with winning, uh, the year award, and he never really won the big game. He freelanced and got hurt all the time. I don't want him to come in here and give our quarterback that free reign to go out there and try to make plays like that and get hurt all the time. That's my only concern. But if Miss Amy got the money, she can get Harbaugh. I would go and get him if we could, or I would go for Salah, or that's about it, or even Tomlin if he came out. But I think Nashville is a great destination to come in here and do a good job. And y'all have a good day. Thank you.
Thanks for the call, Trey. I got a little lost there on the Malik Willis part of it,
Yeah.
but I get what he's saying. I guess that the Titans can be a destination. This is a city that people want to live in. There is the young quarterback, the new stadium, lots of cap space, and a high draft pick. So I think there's a lot to like with this Titans job. Amy Adams Strunk is the exception. And for Amy, I've said this before, that Amy Adams Strunk has to realize that this is a turning point for the franchise, for her. And if she shows that she is willing to invest in winning and pay, if it is $20 million for John Harbaugh, pay $20 million for John Harbaugh. I know there are a lot of fans who probably will never change their mind on Amy Adams Strunk, but that at least shows that she cares about winning and she is willing to invest in this team to turn things around quickly. If she's going, I mean, the rumor is that they paid Callahan $3 million. That's the reporting out there. If you're willing to go up $17 million for John Harbaugh or Mike Tomlin, shows you at least care and you're willing to go all in to try and get this thing turned around.
Yeah, and let's say the Titans do not have a head coach by next Monday after the next round of the NFL playoffs. If Mike Vrabel and the New England Patriots win that game on Saturday afternoon, that is, I think would pay whatever X amount of dollars to hire that next head coach to get them back on track.
Yeah, and it's not like there's that much money on the books for next year for the Titans. I say that knowing that it's a lot of money, but like the Titans don't have all that much invested in players right now. Yeah, sure. Calvin Ridley's got a cap hit, but you can save most of that. Most of that's not guaranteed. You're paying Dan Moore and Jeffrey Simmons a decent amount of money, but outside of that, L'Jarius Sneed's the only other guy making $20 million or more. So you've got money. If I don't know if this is exactly how she would think of it, but if you're giving Harbaugh $20 million and maybe that means you don't sign one or two extra free agents, I think I could live with that. But we'll see. Obviously, it all depends on, first, whether John Harbaugh wants to come here.
Yeah.
And we can talk more about that on the other side. Right now, the rumors, the reports, Jonathan Jones put it out there yesterday, that the Giants and Falcons are the most likely spots. The Titans would be in third. We'll talk about that on the other side. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly, next man up, 1025 The Game. Next man up, 102.5 The Game. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly with you. Titans coaching search is in full swing. Again, they are interviewing everybody and anybody that they can, especially if you have NFL head coaching experience. 18 official requests now. 14 are former NFL head coaches. And that does not include John Harbaugh, who is the focus right now. Again, I think everybody who thinks they have a chance at John Harbaugh is probably waiting to see what he does before they make a move on anybody else. So John Harbaugh, there's been a lot of talk about where he wants to go. New York is the most heavily rumored spot. I would say the most likely spot. And right now, I saw a report this morning that he's going to interview with the Giants, and the Giants are going to offer him the job this week. So there's a chance that it's always been the Giants and it always will be the Giants, and Harbaugh is going to go there. The one thing I don't understand is the other team rumored heavily is the Falcons. What exactly is attractive about that Falcons job?
I can't really say anything's attractive minus the young roster talent.
Like Drake London, Bijan Robinson, there's some good defensive players. They really upgraded that pass rush with James Pierce from Tennessee and is Jalen Carter. It was one of the Georgia defensive linemen from last year. Not Jalen Carter, Jalen something. Walker. Yes, there you go. Not Jalen Carter.
Yeah, no.
He's with the Eagles. Also a Georgia defensive line. With the Falcons, maybe it's just Michael Penix that is making me hesitant here. There was the report over the weekend. We talked about it yesterday. Omar Kelly, who covers the Dolphins down in Miami, he reported that John Harbaugh is going to choose his next spot based on quarterback, that was going to be a huge factor. And Kelly even said, if that's the case, I think he's going to Tennessee. And with the Falcons, Michael Penix has looked fine when he's been healthy, but I look at it and say, man, that's another torn ACL. And has he shown you enough when he has been healthy? He's looked fine, but has he shown you enough that you truly believe that he's going to come back and he's going to elevate that team back into being a playoff contender? That roster is probably the most playoff ready, but is it sustainable with Michael Penix as your quarterback? That becomes the question. And that's why I don't understand why it seems like it's Giants-Falcons for John Harbaugh.
I think it comes down to the veteran experience at that quarterback position. Let's not forget about Kirk Cousins.
Well, he's going to be gone.
Well, you never know if he wants a one-year deal.
Well, they said they just restructured it basically for the purpose of cutting him.
Okay, never mind.
I think he's most likely going to be a free agent. And maybe if they hire Harbaugh and Harbaugh says, I want to keep Kirk around, I'm sure they can change their mind on that. But right now, the tea leaves are showing that he's going to get cut.
Because their first-round pick is with the Rams.
Yes.
They don't really have that. So, again, I don't know why that would be an attractive job because you don't have that quarterback per se. Again, Michael Penix is there, but like you mentioned, that little ACL injury going on there, that would be a little worrisome if I'm a head coach. Again, a guy that's a veteran head coach that way, why put your reputation on the line for something like that? There's no need to do that.
Well, and again, if the report is he's picking based off quarterback, I think Cam Ward would be the most attractive of the group. Jackson Dart, I think you worry about the sustainability of the way that he plays. Is he going to be able to stay healthy? 4 concussion checks in his rookie season where he didn't even play the full year. Maybe that ends up being nothing, but we've seen it with quarterbacks before, Tua Tagovailoa, that sometimes when you get concussions a lot, you're going to continue to get concussions, and that doesn't lead to a very long career. I think Cam Ward would be the most attractive. I don't think John Harbaugh is basing his pick solely off of quarterback, but if it is a big factor for him, like the reports are saying, I do think Cam Ward is probably the most attractive option out there outside of his own job that he just left with Lamar Jackson.
That's fair. Yeah. You mentioned a guy like Cam Ward, again, played in every single game this year, obviously minus the little injury there.
He played in every single game.
Yeah, played in every single game. Not through all of them, but every single game. That goes to show you the durability that Cam has. And again, you mentioned the Jackson Dart, 4 concussion, things didn't finish every single game for the most part. That's something that would be a worrisome problem. But again, I just go back to that clip on Twitter of Jackson Dart talking on the sideline at the
Yeah,
college football play,
it's Harbaugh or
Stefanski.
Stefanski.
Yeah, and it makes you wonder if that is the case, if it's going to be Harbaugh, what about Stefanski on the other fold of it?
Yeah, I had also seen another report this weekend that Harbaugh and Stefanski, it's like the winner is going to get Harbaugh between Atlanta and New York, and the loser gets Stefanski. And maybe that's true. I think if the Titans want those guys, I do think that they have a lot to offer. The only other job that I could say, if you look at it, and maybe the quarterback situation would be better, is Vegas. And that's only if Harbaugh or whoever it is looking at it and loves Fernando Mendoza. I could see it just because then they are in the conversations to draft him and they can kind of mold him as a rookie instead of having a year already under his belt. I guess I could understand that. But you look at the other quarterback situations out there. Who knows what the Browns are doing? Is it Shador? Do they go get somebody else? We mentioned Jackson Dart, Michael Penix. I don't know what the Cardinals are doing in quarterback. I don't know what the Dolphins are doing in quarterback. So if you're looking at quarterback specifically and you're John Harbaugh, I think the Titans are the most attractive job. But we'll see. Again, I would put the chances low. Indy Ben said 10% chance on the text line. I would probably go 15-ish, but so not high, but also far from impossible for the Titans to go get John Harbaugh.
Yeah, it's possible. You mentioned the Raiders. I think that's the 1A, and then the Titans are 1B.
Yeah, I guess the Raiders, number one pick, you do have $100 million in cap space, and I think the Tom Brady factor is something, getting to work with Tom Brady. I also think you could spin it for the Titans of the Titans have a top 5 pick too, but they've already got the quarterback. So they can go get another playmaker while the Raiders, if you take Fernando Mendoza, you're not getting anybody else at the top of the draft.
They just have more younger firepower when it comes to the offense. You have Ashton Genty, Brock Bowers, Jack Beck. Again, didn't have much progress in his rookie year, but yet that's a guy that can slowly marinate in his career.
Yeah.
Then if you go draft Fernando Mendoza, those are core pieces on your offense where you can build around that. And again, for a guy that's an experienced head coach in Harbaugh, that to me would say, hey, maybe the Raiders job is more attractive than Tennessee.
Expecting some sort of clarity on John Harbaugh and who he's going to interview with, I would guess today, because the reports are that he's going to speak to them this week. So, this week's getting close to halfway over. You got to make those decisions soon. So we'll see if John Harbaugh ends up coming to visit with the Tennessee Titans. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. If the Titans did hire John Harbaugh, and since we talked about Mike Tomlin earlier, if Tomlin does get fired, we'll include him in this conversation coming up next. How do your expectations change for this team heading into next year if you get one of those Super Bowl winning, sustainable coaches that we've seen over the last 20 years? 615-737-1025 is the phone number. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly, next man up, 1025 The Game. Preds fans, Smashville Live returns tomorrow night at 6 p.m. on 102.5 The Game, live from Brewhouse South in Cool Springs. Meet your Predators players up close and personal and also get autographs and pictures. Preds player guests will be Ozzy Weisblatt and Reed Schaefer. That's tomorrow night at Brewhouse South in Cool Springs and only on 102.5 The Game. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly with you on this Tuesday. Titans coaching search continues to roll along. Diana Rossini just put it out there about 20 minutes ago. Here is the interview schedule for this week for the Titans. Today, Jeff Hafley, Jesse Minter. Tomorrow is Mike McDaniel. Thursday is open. Just putting that out there. Maybe they're waiting to see if somebody could come in on Thursday. Friday, Brian Daboll. Saturday, Mike McCarthy. Sunday, Jonathan Gannon and Robert Saleh. So that is 7 more interviews. Yesterday, they talked to Raheem Morris. And Diana Rossini also says Arthur Smith is expected this week. So it is a heavy list for the Titans. They are talking to a lot of people. I think by the end of this week, after that group is done, I think you're probably done with the preliminary interviews and you start looking for finalists. Starting next Monday, you can talk to all candidates in person. So it gives you the opportunity to bring in people for second interviews if maybe you only were able to do a Zoom. So we're going to find out a lot more in the next 7 days about this Titans coaching search. But John Harbaugh is the hot name. And Mike Tomlin also could end up on the market after losing to the Texans last night. Maybe the Steelers are looking for a change of scenery. I asked the question, how does that change your expectations for this team if you're able to get the big fish on the market of a Harbaugh or a Tomlin, somebody who has a track record of success, not a lot of losing seasons between the two of those guys? How do your expectations change even for next year for this Titans team with one of those guys at the helm?
Is it premature to say or just scarcely to say that a wild card spot would be the expectation?
I don't know about expectation, but I think it wouldn't be out of the question. I think if you hire, just for the sake of an example, Chris Shula, who first-time head coach, maybe there's a little bit of a learning curve there. I think your expectations aren't that the team is going to be a playoff team. I think your expectations is they take a step forward.
Right.
You're 2 under Cam Ward, hopefully more talent on this team. But I don't think you're expecting them to be more than a 5, 6, 7 win team.
I'm saying with Harbaugh and Tomlin.
Right.
That's what I'm
I
saying.
think that's where I was headed, is that I think with Harbaugh and Tomlin, you expect this team to be competitive. And I don't know if that means a playoff spot, but I would expect this team to be in the hunt in December if you bring in a guy like Harbaugh or Tomlin.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, like you mentioned with Shula, yeah, I think 6 wins would be the ceiling for year one. And, you know, you mentioned Thursday is open for the Titans with an interview process, and Arthur Smith's at the bottom of this list. They don't know what day that could be.
I wonder if it's because he just played last night and he probably didn't want to focus on it until after the season was over.
Yeah, I think that probably is it. I mean, if he is an option for the Titans, say if he is hired at some aspect, I think that would I wouldn't be a down word of a hire, but I think it wouldn't be the best hire.
I like Arthur Smith. I'm not sold on him.
Neither am I.
As being the head coach of this team. I think if you hired him, it would only be because of the familiarity.
Yeah.
He hasn't been good enough in Pittsburgh this year as a play caller to make you think like, oh, he's going to revolutionize our offense. And yesterday we talked about, you know, Hafley and Shula both gave up 31 points on Saturday in their playoff games. Does that worry you? Defensive coaches, it doesn't worry me. Like a defensive coach, you don't have to be a good coordinator to be a head coach. Mm-hmm. But if you're going to be an offensive guru type who calls the plays, it does bother me a little bit when your offense isn't having success. What's the reason for me hiring you?
Yeah, exactly. And it kind of makes me wonder about the Aaron Rodgers situation against Baltimore. That whole last drive, he couldn't hear anybody through the headset. He wasn't really calling plays off of what Arthur Smith already had, not premeditated, but already had scheduled out.
Yeah.
They were just all off the top of his dome what really works well. And I think that's something that is a knock on Arthur Smith because, again, that's Aaron Rodgers' experience and veteranship. I get all that. But if you're the offensive coordinator, where's the direction?
Yeah. Arthur Smith, again, like the guy, think it would be a cool story with how much time he spent here and he worked his way up through the ranks, but that's not a reason to hire somebody. Yeah. And I'm glad he's getting an interview. I don't think he's a serious contender. With Harbaugh and Tomlin, the expectations are one thing, and a lot of that will depend on what they do in the offseason personnel-wise. Mm-hmm. You got all that cap space. Can you go and get players who can develop the bottom half of this roster? Can you go get marquee, high-impact players with your first and second round draft picks? All of that has to work out, too, for this team to have raised expectations for next year. I think the one thing it does, if the Titans do get Harbaugh or a Mike Tomlin, if he came available, I think it gives you a lot of confidence in Mike Borgonzi. Because if there wasn't belief in Borgonzi as the GM and the leader of the football operation from a Harbaugh or a Tomlin who is widely respected across the industry, I really don't think that you would be able to get one of those guys if it wasn't for Mike Borgonzi. I think that would raise the confidence for the Titans fan base in Borgonzi threefold.
Yeah, 100%. I think if that is the case, for sure, Borgonzi, you're right, through the roof. If they were to, I'd say, you mentioned kind of building the bottom half of the roster. If it were to be Tomlin or Harbaugh, to me, I think the experience is what really helps with that, because I think the way to really structure a roster that way is find guys that are on expiring rookie deals that actually showed some progress, because you're getting that youth, you're building and filling out the rest of that roster, and you have veteran coaches that are leaders. That is of top quality, is what Borgonzi's been looking for, that can really help direct those young guys into being true NFL pros.
Yeah, the Titans have resources at their fingertips, and if they get the right coach in here, you feel like maybe this thing could, I don't think we're going to see a Jaguars or Patriots like turnaround in year one, but you could see this go from what a lot of people would call a dumpster fire over the last 3 calendar years to a team that is back in a similar spot that they were 2017, 2018, 2019, leading up to the AFC Championship run, the 1 seed in 2021, I should say.
Yeah.
So I think getting the right head coach in here is going to be crucial, and I really don't think you can find many better options than John Harbaugh and Mike Tomlin. If Tomlin is to come available, and again, we're keeping an eye on old X on Twitter to see if there's any news that comes out. Okay, we already knew that. I was going to say Albert Breer just tweeted about the Titans, but it was just about Jeff Hafley interviewing today. So 615-737-1025 is the phone number. Titans continuing their head coaching search. It is Jeff Hafley and Jesse Minter today. Mike McDaniel is in tomorrow. We'll take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to get into some college football. We are going to talk about the transfer portal, because the Vols have been dipping their toe in the quarterback pool, but have not been able to get anybody yet. What does that mean for Tennessee heading into next year? We'll talk about it next. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly, next man up, 102.5 The Game. Next man up, 102.5 The Game. Hour number 2 on this Tuesday. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly, broadcasting from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville Studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. Going to talk some transfer portal in this hour with just 2 days remaining in the loan portal window. We'll talk some balls. We'll talk some Vandy. But let's start the hour going to our phone lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Dr. Locke is called in. Thanks for calling. Good morning, Dr. Locke.
What's up, fellas? Just to tag on to the last segment. I know you're moving to the balls. I just think Harbaugh's too high of a reach. I think, I don't think I don't think there's a reason he's not even on the list this week. I think if I'm Harbaugh, and if you were too, I'd make a phone call to a guy named Mike Vrabel. I think I'd probably, make that call and say, hey, what am I looking at if I go over there? And I think that would be an interesting conversation I'd love to hear. But I think it would probably go somewhere along the lines of that place is Amy's lost like last year's Easter egg. That place is a dumpster fire. Don't do it. Go to the desert and go work with Tom Brady. And go work with somebody who knows how to build an infrastructure, build a winning team, has the Super Bowl rings. He's going to empower you, and then he's going to step away and not meddle with you. And I think all those things would not be achieved here in Nashville. I'd love it. I'd love Harbaugh, but you got a meddling owner who doesn't know anything and wants to meddle anyway. And that's a bad recipe. And that's a if you're hungry for a head coach job and you'll put up with that, then great. But I don't think your Harbaughs or your Tomlins are going to put up with that for 20 seconds.
Yeah, we've had the conversation, too, of is Mike Vrabel airing the Titans' dirty laundry all over the league? Because he worked for Kevin Stefanski last year, and that was the conversation when Stefanski got fired of, could the Titans look at him? Would he want to come here? Because I'm sure Mike Vrabel told him all of the stories from the front lines here in Nashville.
Yeah, and I'd assume that'd be a question that'd be asked somewhere down the line when these press conferences take place with the new head coach to Borgonzi. It is if he's by himself. Did that have a factor into this with Stefanski? Not if that is the case, if he's not a hired head coach.
Yeah, no, I think it's a good point. I don't know, and we'll find out when the Titans make a hire if Vrabel and the stories and Amy made a difference. It seems like based on what we're hearing, the reports that the Titans' job is attractive despite the dysfunction that's gone on. Let's go back to our phone lines, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Adam in Portland is called in. Adam, thanks for calling. Go ahead.
Jake, I know you got a schedule, man. I'm sorry. Hey,
it's okay. We go with the flow.
Built? What has Brady built? What is he talking about? He is a good quarterback. He is bad at everything else, except for a cameo in Ted, which was pretty good.
I will say, Adam, his broadcasting has gotten better this year. It was not good last year, but it's gotten better.
Jake, you're 20 times better than him. His broadcasting sucks. He sucks so bad. Burkhardt's all right, but he carries him. He still sucks. Like, there was so much room for improvement that first year that, I mean, it's the same thing like Levis. He looked a little bit better than he did the year, but come on, dude.
That's fair.
He still sucks. No, he triggered me when he's like, Tom Brady, go to Tom Brady where he's built something. He's never built anything in his life. Dude, he was a great quarterback. He's bad at everything else, dude. I couldn't listen to that and not call you.
Thanks for the call, Adam. No, I understand that sentiment too of it's like, yeah, the name of Tom Brady draws attention, but is he actually a good football exec? There's nothing to tell us one way or the other quite yet. So who knows?
Exactly. It's almost like he has the job title of a executive, and then you're just kind of helping out with quarterbacks. It's like a glorified quarterbacks coach.
For John Harbaugh, another thing to consider if he wanted to go to Vegas is he would either get to or have to play his brother twice a year. I don't know if that would be a positive or a negative for him. I could see it both ways of the friendly brotherly competition of we want to square off, or, hey, I don't want that every single year of us having to play home and away. So I don't know. There's a lot of factors going into that for John Harbaugh. Since we're still on the head coaching topic, Ron texted in, good morning, guys. My question is, do you think Matt LaFleur is a really good coach, or was it just things around him that made him look good? I haven't seen him work with a bad roster and still be good. Yeah, I don't know. He has been gifted a decent roster. He had Aaron Rodgers there for the early part of his career, but you do have to give him credit. Jordan Love was viewed as a developmental, raw prospect coming out of Utah State, and he developed him into a guy that was worthy of a $200 million plus contract. Malik Willis was pretty much left for dead here. 7th round pick. He developed him into a guy who could carry the load as a backup quarterback when needed to, and more than that, win games if needed to. So I think with Matt LaFleur, yes, you don't really know what it looks like of trying to rebuild a roster because he stepped into a pretty good spot with the Packers, but I think you have to give him credit for some of the things that he's accomplished up there as well.
Absolutely. And again, I think it's just a franchise that builds, quarterbacks at another level. Whereas you look at the Titans that are not really a quarterback driven team that can develop them. So, because it makes sense because you got Malik Willis, who was here in Nashville, ends up going to Green Bay, and guess what? Becomes a pretty decent backup quarterback.
Right. So on the Matt LaFleur front, the fact that we haven't heard that they're parting ways yet, the longer it goes, the less I think that he's going to be gone. I would think the Packers would want to get in on the Harbaugh sweepstakes if they were going to get rid of Matt LaFleur, but who knows? They still have not signed an extension, so there's still a chance that Matt LaFleur does find the open market. Now into college football. The transfer portal is wrapping up this week. It ends on Thursday or Friday. It's a 2-week period, and we've seen a lot of movement, especially on the quarterback front. All of the puzzle pieces are starting to fall into place, but Tennessee does not have a puzzle piece on the quarterback board quite yet. Sam Leavitt signing with LSU yesterday. There was rumors after he committed to LSU that Tennessee was making one final push to try and go get the former Arizona State quarterback. But LSU did announce it last night. Sam Leavitt will be in Baton Rouge playing for Lane Kiffin. Bo Pribula, who also visited Tennessee, is going to Virginia. Ooh, he's going to be the next quarterback of the Wahoos. So where does that leave Tennessee? I think it tells you, based on the aggressive approach of trying to go get these quarterbacks and having them visit campus, tells you that they don't exactly feel comfortable heading into next year with McIntyre and Brandon as your options if Aguilar doesn't get another year. But also, what are you left with that you could go get that would be an upgrade over those two former 5-stars?
It kind of leaves you speechless a little bit because, one, the message is not there, and two, you're going to start having guys transfer out, and you're not really going to have a core. And he even mentioned in the Music City Bowl postgame press conference is that we got to come January 2nd when we get back on campus, we got to start retooling this roster and get ready for next year. And I think going after a quarterback for me is not the right direction. I think you got to start utilizing your opportunities in other facets of the roster.
Yeah, they went pretty hard after Sam Leavitt, if you're to believe some of the reporting out there, that even after the commitment yesterday that Tennessee was trying to make a last-ditch effort, which it tells you maybe there's some desperation out there in Knoxville that they don't want to go into next year knowing, I'm sure Josh Heupel knows that an 8-4 year probably puts him on the hot seat next year. You got to go find somebody who you think can come in and take this team to the college football playoff.
Yeah.
And if you don't believe in the inexperience of McIntyre or Brandon, then you kind of have to go to the portal. The issue is, I wonder if the Aguilar part of it hovering over them maybe is making that spot a little bit less attractive, because they don't know if Aguilar is going to be eligible next year. Maybe these quarterbacks don't feel like taking that risk of, hey, what if I commit to you, sign with you, and then Aguilar comes back, and now what happens?
Then you have a loaded quarterback room, and you're thinking, well, we got to figure this out. And
right.
You're going to get somebody that's going to transfer out.
It's not a problem for Tennessee, but it would be a problem for Sam Leavitt or Bo Pribula. And so that's what's left Tennessee in a little bit of a tough spot here. Sam Leavitt going to LSU. I did see some Tennessee fans saying yesterday the whole DeMond Williams saga is really what caused all this.
Yeah.
Of Williams tried to get out of his contract, go to LSU. If that had ended up happening, maybe Sam Leavitt ends up at Tennessee. Miami was also a player for Leavitt, but maybe that ends up happening and he's on Rocky Top. But DeMond Williams goes back to Washington, Sam Leavitt goes to LSU, and now Tennessee kind of left holding the bag.
It has to come to the point where Tennessee just says we got to bite the bullet and do what Texas A&M did. They started a guy in Marcel Reed as a freshman, and wasn't really forceful for that point, but you have to do that if you're Tennessee. I think you just have to bite the bullet and just start McIntyre. I mean, am I wrong in saying that?
Well, no, I agree that they may not be left with any other options. Let's look at who the other quarterbacks out there are. Parker, do you have any thoughts on this as our resident Tennessee fan of like what should the Vols be looking to do here after missing out on some of these top quarterback options?
Well, you can't just sit around and wait for Joey Aguilar because chances are, I don't think he's going to get the extra year because he's on the NCAA's time. And when you're on the NCAA's time, typically it doesn't happen. So I don't think he's going to get the extra year. So right now, your choice is to start or you hold a competition between George McIntyre and Faison Brandon and fall camp and see who wins.
Yeah, I'm looking through this list of the top 20 quarterbacks in the portal from ESPN, and I believe all of them are gone except here's this one. True freshman Houston Longstreet from USC. Top 50 player in last year's class. So, again, even if you brought him in, it's another guy who doesn't have a lot of experience. It's like you might as well go with the guy who's been in your building. Outside of that, there is nobody out there. I guess Ethan Grunkemeyer still has not officially committed to Virginia Tech, even though the rumor is that he is going to follow James Franklin there.
Well,
wonder if Tennessee maybe makes a late run at him. He did look decent down the stretch for Penn State after Drew Aller got hurt.
Yeah, well, it's a possibility. I just looking at this Tennessee transfer portal right now, there's a lot more going out than coming in, and that's a big concern if you're Josh Heupel.
Yeah, I'm interested to see what their strategy is here because I don't know if there is a quarterback on the market right now with the transfer portal getting set to close. Is there somebody out there right now who is going to be a significant upgrade over George McIntyre, Faison Brandon? And I think Parker's right. I think you can't count on Joey Aguilar. You've got to be prepared to start one of those young guys next year, which is risky, but also given the caliber of those players, there is a high ceiling on that move.
Right.
It's just a very low floor compared to bringing in somebody who's played, 15, 20, 30 games at the college football level.
And look, I'm not glorifying Josh Heupel with his, fast-paced style offense that he had in year 1, year 2 with Hendon Hooker. That's kind of fallen off a little bit. I think SEC is kind of caught up with that. But if I'm Josh Heupel, you're going into the season like I'm coaching for my job. Go back to what worked for you in year 1, year 2, and just bite the bullet and start a young quarterback. Because if you don't do that, again, we've already kind of discussed it here, but you're probably out the door.
615-737-1025 is the phone number. If you want to text or call, our phone lines are driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Again, the transfer portal closing up this week, and the Vols have not been able to bring in a veteran quarterback. We'll continue to talk about that on the other side. Also, Vanderbilt's portal class loading up. No quarterbacks there as well, which pretty much tells you Jared Curtis going to be the guy at quarterback for the Commodores in 2026. 615-737-1025. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly. Next man up, 1025 The Game. Next man up, 1025 The Game. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly with you on this Tuesday. Looking at the transfer portal, Tennessee striking out on Sam Levitt. Bo Prabula going to Virginia. Left with some young options at quarterback. Tennessee hoping to take another step forward this year, get back into the college football playoff after missing it this year. Vanderbilt, I think it's been an interesting portal class for the Commodores. They've gone out and they've made some additions. There's also been some losses. Randon Fontenette, the safety, he was one of the star players the last couple of years on that defense for the Commodores. He is transferred out. He is going to play for Coach Prime at Colorado. The one that was tough was Trey Richardson. That was the one that I was really looking forward to seeing him get another year. And, Jared Curtis, who we said it heading into the break, in all likelihood going to be the starting quarterback for the Commodores next year. They have not brought in a veteran quarterback in the portal. I haven't even heard rumblings about them being interested in many quarterbacks in the portal. Feels like it's Curtis's job to lose. I would have loved to have Trey Richardson out there with him, but he transfers out to Louisville. They have made some additions, though, bringing in a lot of wide receivers and a lot of offensive linemen, which I think is going to be important. You're losing a good amount of that 5 from last year. You do bring back Cade Henderson on the left side of the line, or not Cade Henderson. I'm mixing Bryce Henderson, Cade McConnell. You bring back Cade McConnell on the left side of the line, but you needed to bring in some additions, and they've brought in some pretty highly rated guys, including a true freshman, Micah DeBose from Alabama earlier this week. So excited to see what this new look Vanderbilt team looks like. I think it would be naive to act like they're going to be the same team that they were this year under Diego Pavia, but I think you're seeing that this Vanderbilt team is not going to take some massive step back to being a 2 or 3 win team after Diego Pavia leaves.
Yeah, I think it was a conversation Joe Dubin and I were having maybe a week and a half ago about those top-tier players in the group of 5 that try to make the jump to the Power 4 level. And a guy in a wide receiver out of ODU and Ja'Cory Thomas, I think that's somebody you can look at as he has the intangibles to make that jump to the Power 4 level. He's 6'3", 210. I think he had 5 touchdowns in the season, 700+ receiving yards. That's something that you can kind of tell just looking at the transfer portal class, the direction Vanderbilt's going in, because you have a guy, like you mentioned, Jared Curtis, not much competition when it comes to quarterback at going into the portal. You bring in a couple O linemen and you say, maybe they're going to be a real pass heavy team, and, or they're bringing back the running back core too. So you got to remember they have a balance at that as well. So there's a lot of upside for this Vanderbilt Commodores transfer class.
Right. You look around some of the other guys that the Commodores have brought in. They bring in a tight end, Javonte Connor from East Carolina. They brought in a bunch of offensive linemen, Bo Johnson from North Dakota State, Lyndon Cooper, a redshirt senior from Pitt. And then I mentioned the Micah DeBose from Alabama. They've also brought in some defensive linemen going to Jacksonville State, Talon Carter. Yesterday was some big news. Ricardo Jones, safety from Clemson, is coming over to Vanderbilt. So Clark Lee and that group over there, they've gotten busy in the transfer portal. I like the idea of bringing in some of these experienced guys on the offensive line. You look at Bo Johnson from North Dakota State. I mean, that North Dakota State offensive lineman, I feel like if you're going to dip down into the FCS, that's probably where you want to go. And then you bring in a redshirt senior interior offensive lineman from Pitt. Redshirt senior, that's kind of where Vanderbilt has to live, especially with some of the academic requirements. You got to go get some of those more experienced guys or freshman guys, and I think that's what Vandy has done a nice job of. You're not only building for this year, but you're bringing in some highly recruited guys who maybe just didn't find a place at some of these bigger spots. Getting a freshman from Alabama, a freshman from LSU, and from some other places that you can try and build up as a future piece for this team as well.
Yeah, and you mentioned Lyndon Cooper there. That's a key piece to this equation because, this past season, Vanderbilt had a lot of experience, a lot of upperclassmen. And Lyndon Cooper is one of those guys in college football who's had over 2,000 snaps on the offensive line. That's experience. That's something that is, I think, valued when it comes to this Clark Lee era of football. So if you can continue supplementing in the portal with experience like that at a high production, especially in the Power 4 and the ACC, and nonetheless, some people may devalue the quality of play in the ACC, but if you can help elevate that in the SEC, that's where things can really bode well for you.
Yeah, it's great to see that Vanderbilt. I think there could have been the expectation that a lot of people might transfer out after this year. You know, you lose Diego Pavia, you lose Eli Stowers, and you made this great run. Maybe some guys are trying to get in the portal and maximize their value. In terms of key contributors, Fontenette and Richardson, is that basically it that have gone into the portal? I'm looking through here. Linus Zunk was a rotational defensive lineman. He's going to Washington State. AJ Newberry might be in the portal. It says expected here. So, but if that's it, that's a pretty good job of roster retention from Clark Lee.
I'd say so. I think looking over here at 24/7, like having 16 outgoing transfers and 14 incoming, that's pretty even. I think you're able to kind of equal that out. And again, sure, you have a few guys that may have gone to the portal. Status is unknown where they're going to go. You never know. Things could change.
It is portal season for at least a couple more days, and you never know. There could be some surprises because the deadline is going to cause some decisions. If there are guys who are on the fence about whether they want to leave or stay, that decision has to come in about the next 48 hours. So we will see. But for Vanderbilt and Tennessee, we're going to probably see some young quarterbacks out there this year, which is exciting because maybe you're looking at the next big rivalry for the next 3 years. If at the end of the year at First Bank Stadium next year, it's Jared Curtis, 5-star, Faison Brandon, 5-star, squaring off as true freshmen. Who knows what's on the line at that point? But it's exciting. Also a little bit scary, I'm sure, for those teams to have so much inexperience in the quarterback room.
Yeah, the expectation, the unknown. But I think that's what creates the excitement for me is I like the unknown. I like the underdog story. I like everything about just going all out there, hashes to hashes, and just going
goal line to goal line.
Goal line to goal line. Just give it to me. I want every bit of a broken clavicle / just touchdown scoring running game, along with maybe a couple passes from Jared Curtis.
615-737-1025 is the phone number if you want to text or call. Our phone line is driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. More to come on this show. We will get into the NFL coming up next. The divisional round is set. Really no clear favorite. Who is your Super Bowl pick right now? We'll get into that. Also, more on the Titans coaching search and the Preds ending their homestand tonight, taking on the Edmonton Oilers. 615-737-1025. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly, next man up, 1025 The Game. Next man up, 102.5 The Game. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly. Halfway through the show, we got more coming. Talking Titans coaching search in the 11 o'clock hour. Also, the Preds, they are back in action tonight at Bridgestone Arena, taking on the Edmonton Oilers. But let's talk NFL. We got 8 teams left in contention for the Super Bowl. On the AFC, we'll get Bills and Broncos on Saturday, Patriots and Texans after they beat the Steelers last night. That will be on Sunday. In the NFC, Seahawks, 49ers Saturday night. And then on Sunday, it will be Rams at the Bears. No clear favorite. Usually in the NFL at this point, you can either look at the quarterbacks or you can look at the most loaded rosters and you can say, yeah, those are the teams that I think are going to come out. I don't know. Yeah, I could rank them and I could say maybe this team has a better chance than this team, but I don't know if any of the 8 would shock me if they made it to the Super Bowl. If I had to pick the teams I think are least likely to make it, the Bears and probably the 49ers. With the Bears, it's Caleb Williams and the nature of the way that they played, the comebacks. It's like, is that sustainable? Are you going to be able to do that against good teams? Right. And with the 49ers, it's the injuries. But would it shock me if they found a way? No, it is a wide open field. Do you have any sense of who you're leaning towards that's going to end up playing at Levi's Stadium in Super Bowl 60?
Yeah, it's for me on the NFC side, it is the Rams or the 49ers. I'm still high on the 49ers because sure they have a bunch of injury-riddled issues, but that backup tight end is Jake Tongas, who really
He's good. Is he a free agent this year?
I don't know. That's a great question. I'm not too sure. But in years past, when the 49ers have been injury riddled at the running back position, missing out on Christian McCaffrey, they've had Elijah Mitchell, Jordan Mason, Raheem Mostert. They've had a plethora of running backs that have gone through the cycle. And I think that's a testament to how Kyle Shanahan coaches, because it's the system and not the players.
Yeah, Kyle Shanahan could make me a 1,000-yard runner in the NFL.
Yes.
But he was like, why not have Christian McCaffrey too, who can be a 1,000-yard runner and a 1,000-yard receiver if we want him to be. So, yeah, you're right that the system is built that if the top players are out, that other guys can step in and fill those roles. It might be too much, especially on the defensive side of the ball.
Yeah.
If the 49ers are going to make it to the Super Bowl, you got to beat the Seahawks on the road. That is a really tough place to go play with the 12th man. And then probably the Rams. If I had to pick, I'd pick the Rams to beat the Bears. That's not an easy. Well, I guess I would say that's not an easy place to play. It's probably going to be full with 49ers fans.
Yeah.
But that is a team with a lot of experience, a good defense, and I just don't know if you can hold up without Bosa, without Warner, without Kittle. Who knows if Trent Williams is 100%. I worry about the 49ers. The NFC, I think it's going to be a Seahawks-Rams NFC championship game.
That's fair.
And the games between those two teams in the regular season, I have no clue who's going to win round 3. I think it'll be a great game. Matthew Stafford, Sam Darnold, both those defenses. The AFC, zero clue what's going to happen. I could pick any of those teams to go to the Super Bowl, and I think I'd feel pretty good about it.
Yeah. The AFC, again, it's to the storyline of Josh Allen. If you don't win it this year, then when are you going to win it? Because you don't have all the perennial quarterbacks.
That's what I keep leaning on, is that it's like, Josh Allen, this is your legacy moment right here. You got to prove that you are Superman. And when the other superheroes aren't in the playoffs, that you're going to roll through whoever's in front of you and you're going to the Super Bowl, because it's what the AFC has been for 25 years. The best quarterback is going to the Super Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't know if that's what it's going to be this year. The defenses are that good. The Texans, I don't know if I believe in them to go win back-to-back road games.
Be tough
to go to the Super Bowl. And actually, maybe they don't have to play a road game because they would host the Bills if both teams pull off the upsets this weekend.
Yeah.
But I don't know if I believe in them. CJ Stroud, I think he's been slept on a little bit this year. He hasn't been great, but he's been good. And I think people kind of forgot about him because he did take a step back in year 2. He was not good last night.
No.
And can that defense carry you when you're playing much better offenses than what you saw in the Steelers last night. I don't know. I like the Texans. After last night, I don't know if that offense is going to be able to keep up with the Patriots this upcoming week, despite how good the defense is.
Yeah, and you wonder about Nico Collins as well, if he'll be available going into Saturday. And
Right.
If he isn't, then boy, oh boy, you got to lean the other way.
Yeah, I think the best game of the weekend is going to be Bills Broncos. I really just I want to pick Josh Allen, and I'm rooting for the Bills. As somebody and Titans fans out there, this is a franchise with a fan base that has been tortured for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
You get close, you can never actually get over the hump and go win a Super Bowl. Bills fans might be the most tortured fan base in the NFL. I know there are some other bad ones out there, the Lions, the Browns, but the way the Bills have not been able to get a Super Bowl win, I think is the most painful. Of course, 4 in a row is going to be the headline there, but even the last 5 or 6 years, it's brutal. And in between, there was 20 years where they couldn't go to the playoffs. So the Bills fan base, the Bills Mafia, they've been long suffering. I really hope they get it done. Is Josh Allen going to be good enough to beat the best defense in football?
That is a great question. Looking at the Bills coming off of that crazy win over the Jaguars and that crazy back foot throw that Allen had in the later part of the fourth quarter, it makes you wonder. I don't know if he can replicate that because you're now without Gabe Davis.
Yeah.
You're going to have to lean heavy on your run game with James Cook. And again, you mentioned the defenses, and that's one of the issues with the Buffalo Bills is their secondary just isn't it anymore. They have a lot of vets back there that's just not cutting it for them. I mean, they led 3 passing touchdowns when it came to Jacksonville. Is that right?
Yes.
Roughly. So again, you can let up as many points as you want, but we obviously know in the NFL, you got to score at least about 25, 26 points or more to win a football game. And if you can't have a defense to stop that, then that's where you kind of lean on Denver. And again, I'm not trying to knock Denver. Denver to me is like the Indiana Hoosiers of NFL football right now, because I've doubted them all season long. I think they're the flukiest number 1 seed right now, and yet they've made their way to the top 9.
Yeah, I don't know if I believe in the Broncos to win the Super Bowl this year, and that's probably just Bo Nix.
Yeah,
that is making me think that. But that defense is really, really good.
Mm-hmm.
It's really good. Looking at their schedule, you're right. In terms of fluky number 1 seeds, this is probably one of them. Wins against the Titans, Bengals, Jets, Giants, Cowboys, Texans, Raiders, Chiefs, Commanders, Raiders again, Chiefs, Chargers. So you look, and also the Eagles in there. But that was a 17-point comeback, I believe, at the end. So they have 3 or 4 quality wins against playoff teams in there, which you can't control who's on your schedule. You play the team that's in front of you. I think the Bills need to get off to a hot start. I don't know if Bo Nix can play from behind. If the Bills go in there and Josh Allen takes them down the field, you go up 7-0, maybe make it 10-0. That defense is going to keep the Broncos in the game, but is Bo Nix going to be able to make the plays down the stretch to go beat the Bills if he's going punch for punch with Josh Allen? That's what we've seen in the playoffs with Josh Allen. It's him and Mahomes going blow for blow, back and forth. No one can make a mistake, and Mahomes doesn't make a mistake. I think Bo Nix might, if it gets to be that kind of game late where you're going back and forth. I think Allen is going to end up getting the win there.
Yeah, and for Buffalo, it only takes 1 tip pass. We even saw it this past weekend against Jacksonville. The tip pass that in the game for them. And I think that's for Buffalo's standpoint. They just need that when it comes to Denver and that little fluky turnover you're talking about.
Bills Patriots for the AFC Championship game would be explosive, I think is the only word that I can't like. I would not want to be in that stadium.
Sign me up.
I don't know. I think things might get violent over there. Bills fans feeling like they finally have a chance to go to the Super Bowl, facing Patriots fans who
we're back,
feel like they own the AFC, even despite Tom Brady being gone. That would, if it's a close game late, I think there might be a lot of arrests going on after that game in and around that stadium.
You're probably not wrong on that. But you look at this Patriots team, they obviously you could say they are kind of fluky in some aspects, but that is exactly what Mike Vrabel does. He just rallies a team to win football games. And again, you could compare him to the Broncos, Sean Payton. You can compare him to that as one of those coaches. Like it matters who you play for, and those are guys that rally teams around him. So again, Sean McDermott's name could be up on the list as well for vacant head coach.
Yeah, I can see it. I think the win against Jacksonville at least bought him another year.
Okay.
It's like, because if they had been, what would have been 0-6 on the road in playoff games under him, I think maybe you do make that move.
Mm-hmm.
If they come up short against a really good defense in Mile High, I don't know if you can fire him. Weirder things have happened, but I doubt it. If I had to pick right now with 8 teams left, I'm going to go basic with what everybody's kind of picking. I'm going to go Bills-Rams in the Super Bowl.
That's fair. Yeah, Bills or Rams, or for me, just that odd pick, Patriots and Niners.
Patriots-Niners.
Just give it to me.
That'd be a fun Super Bowl.
Yeah.
It would be. Shanahan versus Vrabel, the one we should have gotten in 2019.
And those guys right now are coaches that love to try to outsmart you when it comes to the rule book. They love to. I know Kyle Shanahan for sure. When his team is injury riddled, they manage the clock very well, and that's something Vrabel knows how to finagle the system with, is the clock management.
Shanahan and Vrabel, that would hurt, because in 2019, my dad's a big 49ers fan.
Oh.
So we went into Conference Championship Sunday thinking, like, there's a 25% chance that we get Titans-Niners in the Super Bowl.
Yeah. And
we were trying to find a way to go. And when the Titans went up 17-7, I was like, oh my goodness, Titans are going. We might be going to the Super Bowl. And then they blew it. So Vrabel Shanahan would be tough to see.
Your dad feeling pretty good about
it? No, he texted me the other day. He was like, great to see a win, but I don't see this team having the legs to get through with all of the injuries. So, but we'll see. Shanahan's a good coach. He's been to 2 Super Bowls for a reason. 3 if you count 28-3 as the offensive coordinator of the Falcons. Just hasn't been able to close the deal yet.
Yeah. My biggest worry for the Rams, I know we're sticking on the NFC here, like, I'm worried about Devontae Adams with that hamstring.
Yeah.
Being in the cold weather for Chicago, it makes you wonder. There was one play in the Carolina game that worried me. I thought he kind of pulled up a little bit on his hamstring. But again, you have Puka Nacua. Wear that out. Colby Parkinson's another tight end that has kind of come into his own. I think they've developed some talent on offense, obviously for sure with Puka, but tight end wise.
Yeah. I mean, I guess what I'm doing is I'm trusting the quarterbacks that I believe in most when I make that Super Bowl pick. I trust Josh Allen the most on the AFC. I trust Matthew Stafford the most on the NFC side. Maybe this isn't a year of the quarterback. Maybe this is the year of the defense and we get Broncos Seahawks in the Super Bowl. But
nice.
I think the one thing we can be sure of is it's going to be some good games this weekend. These 4 games are all going to be entertaining. At least I hope. We've gotten pretty good luck with entertaining football games over the last month or so. So hoping to get 4 good games this weekend. You got Bills and Broncos, Seahawks, 49ers on Saturday. Then on Sunday, it is Patriots and Texans, and Bears and Rams to wrap up divisional weekend. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. We'll take a break. We'll wrap up hour number 2 after this. We got Nick Frazier on. We haven't talked baseball in a while. Let's check
baseball.
There is a report from Jeff Passan out that might be interesting to Nick Frazier. So we will talk about that quickly and wrap up hour number 2 after this. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly, next man up, 102.5 The Game. Next man up, 102.5 The Game. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly, wrapping up the second hour of the show. Back into the Titans coaching search at the top of the hour. 18 candidates have been scheduled, interviewed, or requested to be interviewed. So we will get more into that and who the Titans could be looking at beyond the obvious choices of John Harbaugh and some of the other big names out there. But I did want to wrap up the second hour. I promised Nick some baseball talk today because we are getting closer and closer to pitchers and catchers reporting. The WBC going to be a lot of fun in March. And the hot stove is heating up once again. Got to give Parker Kelly some love. His Chicago Cubs signing Alex Bregman, 5 years, $175 million over the weekend. It looked like that was going to be the only good news for the city of Chicago on Saturday night, and then the Bears turned it around.
What a crazy comeback that was. I mean, I'd say it's the icing on the cake with the Bregman deal, but especially for the Bears winning, that's great.
Right. It looked like it was going to be like a consolation prize of, oh, well, the Bears lost, but at least we got Alex Bregman. Now you got your cake and you eat it too. The report that I wanted to mention to you, the Jeff Passan 30 minutes ago, San Francisco Giants are aggressively pursuing a second baseman and having been engaged with Chicago on Nico Horner and St. Louis on Brendan Donovan.
I love this. Again, I hate that Brendan Donovan would leave in this case, but Chaim Bloom is trying to bring in this new wave of young players, and Donovan's one of those players that his OPS has always been gradually increasing. And let's not forget who the manager is in San Francisco, a St. Louis native, and Tony Vitello. So again, I think Vitello wants to bring that winning, St. Louis style baseball to out west, and I see that. So go ahead. But we're going to need a haul for a guy like that.
I'm really intrigued about what Vitello in the majors looks like. Because when that was all being rumored, my main thought was his greatest advantage is recruiting.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same thing we talked about with Deion Sanders when he was being rumored for NFL jobs last year. Is the biggest advantage he has is people want to play for Deion, and he can recruit them to come play for Deion. I think Tony Vitello had that magnetic personality that drew a lot of big talent to Knoxville. You don't get to recruit as much in the MLB. Sure, there's free agency, but when you get to Major League Baseball, free agency is all about money.
Mm-hmm.
It's not about whether you like the manager or not. Maybe that's a factor if the money's close. I wonder if Tony Vitello has the chops in the other areas of being a manager to have success at the MLB level when recruiting can't be one of his biggest attributes.
I think it can be a bit of a strong suit for him because, again, with baseball, it depends on how aggressive you want to be in the offseason and how aggressive you want to be of grabbing guys. And for San Francisco, who's kind of been out of the conversation of playoff baseball / World Series baseball for a while, they already have Rafael Devers, who they have tried to figure out a role for him, and it seems to be happy. So you grab a guy in Jung Ho Lee, 2 off seasons ago.
Yeah.
He's been one of those guys who was hurt, but I think you can bring him in and be a vital piece to their offense because he's an RBI machine from when he played overseas and now to the MLB. If you add Brendan Donovan to that equation, I think it really makes a statement to see Tony Vitello is here to stay in Major League Baseball.
Yeah, the Giants, they're in a very tough position with the Dodgers being in their division.
Sure.
And, the Padres spend a lot of money too. I get it. You got to think outside the box, and Buster Posey as their president of baseball operations, I think is doing a good job, but it was an interesting hire to go get Tony Vitello.
Yeah.
The offseason is far from over. I do hate the baseball offseason because it just drags on and on and on. Football, basketball, and hockey really are all the same. It's like free agency opens, all the big names are off the board. Baseball, it's just so slow moving. Bregman finally signed. Took him even longer last year to sign. Kyle Tucker's still on the board.
Yeah, and I've heard he's been talking with the Blue Jays and the Dodgers, right?
Yeah. If the Dodgers sign him, I mean, what's the point of the season?
Then the lockout's definitely going to come sooner rather than later, right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't see much of a path for baseball being played in 2027.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. I mean, look, if he does sign with the Dodgers, that'd be awful. But I'm hoping this is what not the Bears, but the Cubs are trying to do in grabbing Bregman.
Is go compete. They just traded for Edward Cabrera.
Mm-hmm. I mean, they let Imanaga walk, which is interesting.
Yeah.
I think that was something that maybe there's still conversations on the table, but they denied his contract for that, or he denied his contract. They offered him. So I'm intrigued to see what the Cubs do because they were one of the top favorites with Milwaukee last season in Central.
Watch the Dodgers sign Kyle Tucker and trade for Tarek Skubal before the season starts.
It would make sense because looking at pitcher value, I don't think the Dodgers value Blake Snell the way they used to.
Yeah.
And so I think that might be a guy they move off of. So their new rotation would be Sasaki, Yamamoto, Skubal,
Ohtani,
Glasnow. I mean, that 5 in rotation is ridiculous. So then you say, hey, you know what? How about Blake Snell and a couple prospects? Deal.
I love baseball. I do. I also hate it because in any other sport, there is no path to you not keeping your superstar elite players.
Mm-hmm.
Tarek Skubal just won 2 Cy Youngs. If the Titans had a player who won back-to-back defensive players of the year, there's no chance they let him walk. Yeah, the franchise tag. And you can just keep doing that and make sure he stays. In baseball, it's just impossible because Scott Boras is saying, sure, you may be able to offer us $300 million right now over 10 years. But guess what? If we take him to the open market, you're not going to be able to keep up with the Dodgers and the Mets and the Red Sox. And he's going to get more money. So why would I sign an extension with you before he hits the open market? And it's frustrating because the Tigers are left in this spot of like, you kind of have to trade him at this point.
Yeah. And also to the front office, there's some front office people that are like, we don't do deals during the middle of the year. And I think that's bad management because you kind of want to solidify a guy like that after the All-Star break. So, you have a future and you can kind of start putting your puzzle pieces around that rather than now you're questioning, well, how do we solidify this? How do we anchor him into the roster?
Yeah, baseball it's different. There's no salary cap, and the big market and small market differentiation basically means some major league teams are just minor league teams for the big boys. Yeah. And it's not fun when your team is the one that's feeding to the Yankees and the Dodgers and all those teams. But
I mean, cover your ears when I say this, but when Skubal hits the mound for WBC and throws 3 scoreless innings or 2 scoreless innings, yeah,
right.
Value just skyrockets.
The risk reward for Tarek Skubal of doing the WBC, like I understand it. You pitch more, there's a higher chance you get injured. But going out on a national stage, international stage, and if he lights it up against the best players in the world,
buy
more money. And the Tigers, could they pay him? Sure. Will they pay him? No. As much as I hate having to trade a guy like that, I think that might be their only option if they're not going to go all in this year. So baseball, I wanted to just get a quick update on that because we love baseball over here. We don't talk about it enough. There's no team in town, or there's no major league team in town.
Yeah.
Yet.
There you go.
And so we're about a month away from pitchers and catchers reporting. The offseason, it goes slow, but it goes by quick. And we'll be back to baseball somewhat soon. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. Hour number 2 in the books. Back into the Titans coaching search on the other side. For the Titans, they have requested 18 different names. They are turning over literally every stone. What do we think of some of the newest additions to the interview list? And also, there's one guy that I've seen Titans Twitter get behind in a big way that I don't see as a great candidate for this job. And we'll talk about it next. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly, next man up, 102.5 The Game. Next man up, final hour on this Tuesday. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly, broadcasting live from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville Studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. Back into the Titans head coaching search, as it is a widespread search from Mike Borgonzi. Currently, 18 candidates have been interviewed already, 7 last week. Plenty more scheduled to be interviewed this week. It is Jeff Hafley, Jesse Minter today, and we'll see. There may be more, but the two most recent names added to the search, Brian Daboll, Jonathan Gannon. And that means that the Titans are now interviewing every fired head coach with the exception of Brian Callahan and Pete Carroll from this year's cycle, as long as they get an interview with John Harbaugh. I'm going to assume they will. Was watching during the break, Tom Pelissero also said, don't count out the Titans for John Harbaugh. So another one of those reports out there. What do you think about this, Nick Frazier? Is there such thing as talking to too many people for the Titans? I don't think there is, but this is a really hefty list that Mike Borgonzi is putting together.
Yeah, I think the more the better for a guy like Mike Borgonzi. It just kind of states your case as I'm here to be a real GM. I want to make, like you said earlier, flipping all the stones, make sure things are covered all grounds. The Jonathan Gannon interview to me, I mean, he's had previous stints with the Titans as that defensive quality control coach way back in the day.
Yeah.
Maybe that's the only connection. I don't know. But again, he's a recent fired head coach, so that makes sense. I just can't wrap my head around it. As for Daboll, there's a little bit more substance to it because he actually had some success with guys like Daniel Jones and Jackson Dart previously and
Josh Allen.
So we'll see how that plays out. But that's the only thing I can go off of with Daboll.
I think some of these interviews are more. Maybe this guy's a coordinator for us. Brian Daboll, I think, is going to be an attractive offensive coordinator option. I haven't heard a ton about Jonathan Gannon since he got fired. It was a really bad year for the Cardinals. I can't get the way the Titans game ended out of my mind of like, man, you can't lose that game. I don't think he's a serious candidate. And I don't know if he's a serious candidate to even be a coordinator for the Titans. Raheem Morris interviewed yesterday. I would love him as a coordinator for the Titans, but man, it is a hefty list of interview candidates for the Titans. And I do wonder if, by talking to this many people, does anything get lost in the shuffle of you're doing basically 2 interviews a day every single day? Is it hard to differentiate people? Like I would think if I'm talking to that many people, and these are 3-hour-long interviews, by the way, this isn't just like getting coffee for 30 minutes. This is a long interview process. I know there's a group of people who are involved in this and they're taking notes and everything, but does it get to the point where maybe you need to draw the line somewhere and say, all right, he's not a serious candidate. Like maybe we could gain something from talking to him, but I don't think it would be necessary, and it might hurt the process overall to have this much of a group that you're having to talk to over a 2-week span.
I look at this head coaching hire / interview as when the Titans are trying to fill that front office role. They hired a bunch of former GMs into being more of it's a collective in that front office. Maybe they're trying to do the same thing like you're talking about. These are offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator kind of hires. I mean, I'm looking at some stuff with Jonathan Gannon right now, like him and Denard Wilson overlapped in Philadelphia on the defensive side of the ball. So maybe there's a connection there. Maybe, again, Denard Wilson potentially, if he is back, maybe that's somebody who wants to add to his roster.
And he did just interview for the Commander's DC job too, I believe. Denard Wilson did.
Well, I don't know what I'm talking about.
Well, no. Like he could be back,
right?
But we don't know.
Right.
He could be looking elsewhere too. I like this side of it better. Like if you're giving me the choice of interviewing 5 candidates and 18 candidates, I'd take 18 because you do not get penalized for interviewing more people. It can only help you to talk to more people. But man, I did not expect it to be this many. I was thinking 10 to 12, at most 15. They just keep on coming. I think we're going to be over 20 at some point. I want to know what the record is for the most head coaching interviews in NFL history, because I think Mike Borgonzi has to be challenging it at this point.
I mean, it has to. I mean, it's almost like Mike Vrabel when he was challenging the amount of people you can have on a roster in a
Right.
single season. Looking online, there's nothing that really comes up.
Right. I don't know if that's something that is people keep records of that, of how many coaches are interviewed, but close to 20. If it's Harbaugh, that's 19. If Tomlin or LaFleur shook loose, I would almost guarantee the Titans would talk to them. So you'd be at an even 20. Who knows if Bones Fossil gets an interview? Then you're at 22. It's they are casting the widest of wide nets in this search. And again, I think between that and only talking to a few guys because you are dead set locked in on someone, I would be really mad. You know, we talked about the Nagy stuff of are they just locked in on Nagy? If they just hired Nagy or interview Nagy, maybe 2 or 3 other candidates fulfill the Rooney Rule and hire Nagy. That would really annoy me because it shows that they didn't go through the process. So I would much rather this, but some of these guys that they're interviewing, I'm just, what's the point? Jason Garrett, Lou Anarumo, Jonathan Gannon. I'm like, are you really gaining that much from spending 3 hours with these guys?
Again, it makes you wonder what the national perception is on this job, because I think if you if you interview too many people, it dilutes the value of a head coaching job for the Tennessee Titans a little bit. I mean, it just, what kind of message does that send to everybody else on the outside that are fans or reporters looking at, like, is it really that attractive of a job? I don't think so. But again, the $100 million, Cam Ward, and, you know, to have a top 5 pick in the NFL draft,
right?
Those are attractive things. But is it that attractive where you need 18 people to interview?
It's just funny. I keep thinking that it's over, right? I think I said on Friday when they released their next group of interview requests, I think that was when it was Hafley and Shula and Saleh. I was like, all right, this feels like the group. Your head coach is somewhere in this group. And there's just more keep on adding on. And let's get into Mike McDaniel here, because this is the guy that I wanted to talk about. I see Titans Twitter fawning over him a little bit of, this is the guy we need. Let's make him the head coach. And I really, really, really like McDaniel as an offensive coordinator option. Don't get me wrong. I think he might be one of the best options as an offensive coordinator if you bring in a defensive head coach. But is what he did as a head coach with Miami all that attractive? I don't know if he screams leader like Mike Borgonzi has been shouting from the rooftops. We need a leader. I just don't know if Mike McDaniel fits the bill of what they're looking for in a head coach, although I do think he would be a great offensive coordinator.
Yeah, I mean, his track record with former teams, he comes from that, Shanahan.
He's in that same, the group of Shanahan, McVay, LaFleur, him, who are all on Mike Shanahan's staff in Washington.
Yeah. So, like, you come from a coaching staff of that you know that the pedigree of winning wasn't as peak as it is now.
Yeah.
And you go through the Cleveland Browns, the Atlanta Falcons. Obviously, you have a little bit of success with the 49ers, but then you go to Miami to try to make a name for yourself, and it doesn't really turn out well. Again, that goes to your point of probably a better OC than a head coach. But again, like, what has he truly proved as a head coach? Because again, to me, in the back of my head, I think about what Borgonzi's talking about with a leader. Is he that much of a leader? Like, that's what would really set the factor for me on this list, is how many of these 18 guys are leaders? Because right now, I'd say cut half of that. Those are the guys that are leaders.
Let's try and narrow it down on the other side. We can go through and say, who are the legit contenders to be the Titans head coach? Because it is a huge pool of interview candidates. Not all of those guys are serious contenders for this job. Let's try and narrow it down and see if there is a group of maybe 6 to 8 guys who we can actually see being the Titans head coach. 615-737-1025 is the phone number if you want to text or call. Our phone line is driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. 2349 says Google Gemini has the record for the most head coaching job interviews was last year by the Bears. I don't know how accurate that is, though. I don't know. I don't know how many they interviewed. I guess we weren't really paying much attention to how many guys the Bears were interviewing, but the Titans have to be up there at 18 already requested and likely more to come. 615-737-1025. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly, next man up, 1025 The Game. Next man up, 102.5 The Game. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly. Titans coaching search continuing this week. They interviewed Raheem Morris yesterday. Today, Jeff Hafley, Jesse Minter in the building, and lots more to come throughout the week. 18 official interviews have been requested / scheduled / already happened. 2349 was saying that the Bears have the record for most job interviews according to Google Gemini. He says 19. So the Titans can tie it with one more. If they get Harbaugh, they tie the record for most interviews in a head coaching cycle. We got to sort through this, right? Because not all of these guys are legit contenders to be the Titans head coach. So let's go through one by one here. Quick yes or no on whether you think they are a legit contender. Mike McCoy.
No.
No. Agreed. Vance Joseph.
No.
I would lean no. I'm not 100% out on Vance Joseph, but I lean no. Lou Anarumo.
No.
No. Steve Spagnuolo.
No.
No. Matt Nagy.
Sure.
Yes, I think Matt Nagy. So that's one that I feel confident is a true contender for the job. Jason Garrett.
Yes.
No. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
You think he's a legit contender?
Yeah. If you bring a guy in to go interview in person and not on a video call, I think there's some merit to that.
I think it's less of a courtesy interview than I initially thought, but I still do not think he is a legitimate contender for the job.
And again, this is the second wave of guys to make the next cut, right?
Right. So, yeah, I guess this would be who do we think makes the next cut? I don't think Jason Garrett does.
Okay, that's fair.
Because if a guy makes the next cut, if you bring a guy in for a second interview, it's because you're seriously considering them. You're
Correct.
not, there are no courtesy second interviews in this. So I've got one, you've got two. Kevin Stefanski.
Yeah.
Yes. Raheem Morris.
No.
I would say no. Jeff Hafley.
No.
I'm going to go yes.
Okay.
I think Jeff Hafley is a legitimate candidate. He's in today. Jesse Minter.
No.
I'm going to say yes.
Wow.
I think if they're bringing in, like, most of the guys are former head coaches. 14 of the 18 guys that they have interviewed or are scheduled to interview are former head coaches. If you're bringing the guy who's not a former head coach, I think it's because you think that there's something there. So I will say yes on Minter. Arthur Smith.
No.
I agree. No. I thought so maybe, but I don't think so. Mike McDaniel.
No.
I'm going to go no too. I think good offensive coordinator, not a head coach that gets a job immediately after being fired. Brian Daboll.
No.
Same boat. Same thing for me as McDaniel. Mike McCarthy.
Yeah.
Yes. So I'm at 5. I think you're at 4.
Yep.
Jonathan Gannon.
No. Thank
No.
you.
Robert Saleh.
Yes.
Yes. Chris Shula.
No.
You're going no?
No.
All right. So you got 5, and then Cliff Kingsbury's the last one.
No.
I'm going to go no. So I've got 7 guys that I think are legit candidates, and I'll put John Harbaugh in there too. He's not officially scheduled to be interviewed yet. I think that's 8. I would assume you'd put Harbaugh in there too.
Absolutely.
So yeah, it's that list shows you that there are some good candidates in there, but more than half of it seems to just be extra weight of, hey, we're going to talk to these guys, see if we can get anything. And I did see a point made on social media last night of interviewing these guys. Sometimes you get ideas for your team or you get feedback on your team that you wouldn't get anywhere else, right? Like you can ask these head coaching candidates whatever you want. You can ask, hey, what do you think about Cam Ward? What would be the best steps to develop him? And maybe somebody has a really good answer. They're not fit to be your head coach, but it's something that you can use moving forward. So you can gain some knowledge from these extra interviews. But when you look at the quote unquote 18 or 19 candidates, it's really probably between 6 and 8 guys who are legitimately contenders to be the Titans head coach.
I'd agree to that 100%. And you mentioned Cam Ward. Do you think Mike Borgonzi and potentially Chad Brinker are picking and choosing who Cam Ward speaks to in these little interviews? Because he did say he's had a little say into it, right?
I would guess he has not talked to any of them yet.
Okay.
And that's just purely a guess. Mike Borgonzi had said in his interview last week of he might get a quick hello with some of those guys, but I don't think it's going to be during the first interviews, even for the in-person guys, right? Like, I don't think that Kevin Stefanski, when he rolled in on Saturday to talk to Mike Borgonzi, I don't think Cam Ward was there to shake his hand when he came into the building.
Right.
But I think when you bring these guys in for a second interview, let's say they bring 5 back, I would guess Cam Ward would get a quick hello with all of them. Just a quick conversation. No harm in that. I would guess that's probably the extent of his involvement in this search.
Interesting. Maybe Borgonzi met with Cam before all these interviews take place and has like a little checklist of what he's kind of looking at for qualities. Maybe that's something to look into as well.
Yeah, and I would guess a lot of the interviews are being spent on Cam Ward.
Oh, yeah.
When you draft a guy number 1 overall, that's what your franchise is tied to. Everybody's job in that franchise is tied to whether Cam Ward ends up being the franchise quarterback. So I think a lot of the questions are, what are your plans for Cam Ward? What are your thoughts on his rookie season? Where does he need to improve the most? What would your staff do specifically to help Cam Ward? What kind of weapons do you think would be the most advantageous for Cam Ward in his second year, whether that's free agency or the draft? I think all of those questions have to be asked because Cam Ward is that central cog to this whole thing. If he figures it out and becomes the franchise quarterback, everything gets a whole lot easier for everybody else. David on the text line asks, aren't these former coaches available for a reason? What makes you think they'll succeed here? Yes.
It's a valid point.
All of these former coaches have been fired. I think what gives you a little bit more hope for them is a lot of guys do learn from their first experience as a head coach.
Mm-hmm.
Bill Belichick, he's the head coach of the Browns. Didn't work out. He got fired. Ended up being the greatest NFL head coach of all time, arguably. Mm-hmm. Andy Reid wasn't a bad coach with the Eagles, but could not get it done. Could not win the big one. Goes to the Chiefs. He's won 3 Super Bowls. Fired head coaches, sometimes they're fired because they were bad at their job, and a lot of times those guys don't get another chance. Sometimes it just gets old. It gets stale. The situation's not right. They need a change of scenery. I don't think all of these former head coaches deserve a second chance that we went through, and that's why we said no on a lot of them, like Mike McDaniel and Brian Daboll. I think they're good offensive minds, but what they've done in their career does not, in my mind, warrant them getting an immediate second chance in the same offseason they got fired. Eventually, sure, maybe they go have a couple of years where they're great offensive coordinators in Detroit or Tennessee or wherever it is, and they get a second chance. But their pedigree does not warrant them getting a second chance right off the bat. Harbaugh, Tomlin, LaFleur, if those latter two were to come loose, those guys have the reputation that would warrant them getting another job immediately. Everybody else, and I think Stefanski too, you're a 2-time head coach of the NFL Coach of the Year. And then the rest of the former coaches have gone through the, for lack of a better term, rehabilitation process. They have gone and been coordinators elsewhere and proven that they are still good at what they do. Maybe they just need a second chance in a new spot. And I think that's why you talk to these guys, because when you're a first-time head coach, you are learning on the job. You don't have to do that again as you come into your second opportunity.
Yeah. And, looking at a lot of these names that are on the coaching realm for the Titans, I'd say the 6 that I have are 5 of them are more offensive minded. So then that kind of leads you to think of, the retread when it comes to coaches would work out better with the Titans because of the lack of success this team has had. 3 wins this year,
3 wins
last year. That, again, there's more room for improvement than there is to bottom out if you're one of those rehabilitation coaches.
The only way to go is up.
Yeah.
It cannot get much worse. So your 6 that you thought, Harbaugh isn't listed, but he's one of them.
Yep.
Nagy, Stefanski, Garrett.
Yep.
McCarthy, Saleh. Was that the 6?
That is correct.
So yeah, you're right. Mostly offensive guys. I added in there. I had those. I did not have Jason Garrett. I had the other 5 of yours, and then Hafley, Minter, Shula. Yeah. I think if you're bringing in the young guys, I think that they're at least being considered. But you also have to look at the type of guys that they're bringing in. If Harbaugh gets an interview, 15 out of 19 are former NFL head coaches. It shows you what they're looking for. Mm-hmm. They want somebody who has done this before. I think that's what it ends up being. It's going to be somebody who has been a head coach in the NFL.
And to put a twist to things here, Jake, and I'm not trying to change the subject, but Mike McCarthy, I think one of the primary reasons why he's not being talked about a lot, obviously his interviews coming up in the coming days, but I have a hunch. If Tomlin were to leave Pittsburgh, that's your successor right there. Mike McCarthy. He's from Pittsburgh. He's talked candidly about the Steelers on the McAfee show. He's been out for a year.
I could see that.
I think there's something to that.
Because the Steelers, I don't see the Steelers having any willingness to take a step back.
Right.
And if you hire an up-and-comer, there is a high risk you take a step back. That's not the Steeler way. Even though maybe it should be. Maybe you got to take a step back to take 2 steps forward, to use the is it the Barry Trotzism that he's used. So I don't know, but I do like that name. Mike McCarthy, I think, is going to be selective in which job he takes, if he takes a job at all, because I'm sure he knows he might get a 3rd chance. He's not getting a 4th chance. This is the last time he will be an NFL head coach if he gets another opportunity.
Yeah, and I think if Rodgers comes back for Pittsburgh one more season, if that is the case,
how funny would that be?
Don't count it out.
Mike McCarthy and Aaron Rodgers, whose only Super Bowl win was against the Steelers, reuniting in the Steel City.
It could happen. There was a podcasting before the season with DK Metcalf, Cam Hayward, and Aaron Rodgers. And I think it was DK Metcalf that ended up somehow twisting Rodgers into saying a maybe for next season. So again, that was earlier on in the year.
Yeah, he didn't rule it out last night. So yeah. I guess we'll see. I said it yesterday. I don't think Aaron Rodgers can handle being out of the spotlight. He's going to want another year. But he hasn't made a decision one way or the other. He's only signed on a 1-year deal too, so the Steelers don't have to bring him back.
Right.
If he decided not to retire. 5546 says, does Gruden get an interview? It's a fun thing to talk about. No one has requested or no one has scheduled an interview with John Gruden. He's not getting one.
Yeah. I think he's still getting paid by the Raiders too.
I think John Gruden's ship has sailed when it comes to being an NFL head coach. He can go be on Barstool. I like John Gruden. That ship has sailed. 3337 says it definitely seems different than the last head coaching search. They're using patience and due diligence. Borgonzi's a professional. It's great. I agree. It's a lot of names. It really is. It's a lot of names. But I think Borgonzi has set the Titans up in a good position of they're going to have the information on some of their other choices if they don't get John Harbaugh. Because I do think these reports aren't coming out if the Titans weren't legitimately interested in John Harbaugh, which they should be. Everybody should be. I think they would love to get John Harbaugh, but Mike Borgonzi is doing a good job of making sure that he is not letting the rest of his search go to the wayside because of their pursuit of John Harbaugh, which is what I think the Giants are doing right now. The Giants are all in, push all the chips to the middle of the table. We want John Harbaugh. I wonder if they get left kind of, oh, what do we do now if he chooses somewhere else? I think he's going to the Giants, but if he doesn't, have we heard much about the rest of the Giants search? It seems like they are push everything in. We want John Harbaugh.
I never thought of it that way. You're right. Honestly, all these coaching interviews and hires, to me, there's got to be more to the agenda. There's got to be another coach out there that's behind the John Harbaugh wall of hiring.
There will be names that surprise you that get hired this year, I think. If I had to look for a team that's going to hire somebody that is kind of off the wall, I think Cleveland. Some of the names that they're interviewing, no one else is touching, and I'm wondering if maybe they go outside the box. Matthew from Jolton says, with Harbaugh, it was just time for a change with Baltimore. You can only have the same message in the same locker room for so long without numerous Lombardis. I agree with that. He says, my realistic candidates, Harbaugh, Minter, McCarthy, Saleh, Stefanski. That's a good list. Yeah. That's basically what you had, except for Minter. You swapped him out for Jason Garrett.
Hey, don't knock him out of the competition yet.
And Matt Nagy.
Yeah.
615-737-1025 is the phone number. If you want to text or call, our phone line's driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Couple more segments on the show. We will take your thoughts on the Titans coaching search. We will also talk some Preds. The Predators back on the ice tonight at Bridgestone Arena. Final game of this 4-game homestand. The Edmonton Oilers coming to town, the old kryptonite for the Preds. Can they get a win and get a 3rd win on this homestand? We'll talk about it coming up next. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly, next man up, 102.5 The Game. Next man up, 102.5 The Game. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly with you. A couple more segments on this Tuesday. Chase and Big Joe are coming up at the top of the hour. Taking some of your texts on the Titans coaching search. We'll talk some Preds too. 3337 says, I think the only way I can get on board with Stefanski is if he brings Jim Schwartz. And I would guess that's probably going to be the idea for the Titans too, is, hey, Stefanski and Schwartz as a package deal could be good. Stefanski is an interesting one to me. I hear what TD is saying, because TD is not on board with Kevin Stefanski. Of the way he handled the Shador thing this year was a red flag of, hey, you're the head coach. I get it. Shador is probably not the ideal backup quarterback that he wanted, because it is a distraction. And he knew that the fans were going to be calling for Shador, but he could have definitely handled that better. And so I understand it's a red flag, but I also look at it and, like, Stefanski's done more with the Browns than anybody else in the last 25 years and won 2 Coach of the Years for it. I don't think he would be a bad hire for the Titans.
Yeah, I think there's more of a structure. I'm not saying Cleveland did not have any structure. It's just more of the plan for the Titans it's more clear. It's a lot more clear than Cleveland.
Cleveland is, I know the Titans organization is dysfunctional too. I don't, it's the pot calling the kettle black,
right?
Like, it's the Titans have their own issues, but in terms of perennially dysfunctional franchises, the Browns and Jets are the 2 teams that come to mind the most. And it's, I think you can understand that maybe Stefanski, and you could throw Saleh in there too. It's like maybe there was more to them failing in their first attempt as a head coach than just them not being good coaches, right? Because Stefanski, there is a proof of concept. He's gotten that team to the playoffs twice. He's won a playoff game. I would be happy with Stefanski. I don't think I would be thrilled. I think it would be one of those where I'm like, yeah, that's a good hire, but it's not one where you jump out of your seat and say, oh my God, I can't believe they got Kevin Stefanski.
Yeah, we're gonna have another coach of the year, and he's gonna bring us back to the promised land. No,
right.
I'm not on that train with you, man.
Right. I like Stefanski. I don't think he ends up being the Titans head coach. I think the report about the Harbaugh stuff of the Falcons and Giants are both looking at Harbaugh and Stefanski. I do think that Stefanski in Atlanta may make sense. That feels like a logical spot for him to go. But I don't know. We're not going to know a ton about this Titans head coaching search probably till next week. I think maybe Sunday, Monday next week is when we'll start to see who the second interviews are. The only reason it might go quicker is if it ends up being Harbaugh.
Yeah.
Because I think Harbaugh is going to want to move quickly. He's going to talk to teams this week in person. And honestly, you might see a decision from John Harbaugh by the end of the weekend. If he talks to the teams he wants, I really don't think there's going to be too much mystery into it. All those teams are going to be willing to offer John Harbaugh the job. It's going to be up to him to decide which one he wants. So that's the only way I could see it moving quickly. Otherwise, I don't think we're going to know much about the finalists for this job until Monday, Tuesday next week.
How much of a wrench does it put into it with Miami hiring John Eric Sullivan?
I don't know. That there was the rumors that the Dolphins were going to hire somebody from the Ravens who had serious connections with John Harbaugh.
Right.
But there hasn't been much smoke with Miami and Harbaugh. I struggle to see John Harbaugh signing up for that quarterback situation down there. All the reports are that quarterback is a big factor. In fact, I just saw Jordan Renan, who covers the Giants. I want to get this tweet up here because I thought it was interesting. Similar stuff to what we've heard. Mm-hmm. Here it is. Belief among sources is that Harbaugh desires, aside from obvious of ownership and organizational structure, 1, a quality quarterback, 2, draft capital, 3, cap space and financial support. Giants and Titans, the best options based on these categories, depending on your evaluation of Jackson Dart and Cam Ward. So that's Jordan Renan. He is the ESPN NFL Nation reporter for the Giants. I struggled to see him wanting to go to Miami.
Yeah.
If those are his qualifications.
Because look, if Tua doesn't work out with them, I'm like, all right, there's $45 million that is to trade. There's $54 million that's owed if he's cut. Like, you're going to have to bite the bullet somehow.
Well, it's you go through those three categories. Quality quarterback. Draft capital. You're picking 11th. Meh. Cap space. You've got $50 million in cap due to Tua and Tyreek this year. So I struggle to see it being Miami.
Yeah.
I don't know why Atlanta is in the conversation, but if I had to guess, it's going to be Titans or Giants. I'm going to go 60% Giants. I still can't get to more than 20% on the Titans, and then the field can be the other 20%.
I mean, at what point do we kind of say, is there a possibility Harbaugh sits out a year? Like, what would you put on the percentage for that?
Okay, sure. If we want to go percentages here, I'm going to go 60% Giants. I'll go 20% Titans. I'm up a little bit as the show's gone on. The Pelissero report has me sneaking up. So 60% Giants, 20% Titans. I'll go 10% Falcons, 5% Raiders, and then 5% anything else.
Wow.
Of Dolphins, Cardinals, Browns sitting out a year.
Okay. I like that.
The reports are that he is fully committed to coach this year. So, yeah, I'll say that. I think 60% Giants, 20% Titans, 10% Falcons, 5% Raiders.
Wow. The fact 10% Falcons, it makes me wonder again, we get to our conversation earlier, what it would really attract to that job.
That's what I'm saying is the only reason I'm 10% on the Falcons is because everybody keeps telling me he might want to go to the Falcons, but I
don't believe it.
In terms of all of the reports of what he's looking for, the Falcons don't have a first round pick this year. Their quarterback's hurt, and I don't know about their cap situation, but unless Arthur Blank just gives him, hey, here is $40 million a year, come be our head coach, I don't see it.
Yeah. If you don't come up to me during the draft process and tell me this quarterback's better than this quarterback, we're good to go.
Here's a good point from Rob. He says, I'm sure that Harbaugh has fatigue with dealing with an injury-prone quarterback. Bonus to Titans because Dart and Penix always show they get hurt. So it's a good point. Cam Ward is injured right now, so that is something to take into account, that he did get through the first 16 games unscathed, but he did get hurt. But yes, Jackson Dart, Michael Penix have proven to be more injury prone.
Not trying to bring him into the conversation, but Will Levis, another injury guy. So,
yeah.
I mean, let's just put that out there as well.
The John Harbaugh saga rolls along. We have not gotten confirmation that he is going to come sit down with the Titans, but when there's smoke, there's fire. And I've seen 4 or 5 different. One second. I've seen 4 or 5 different analysts, reporters out there saying that don't sleep on the Titans. Makes me think he's at least going to come and talk here in Nashville. Breaking news. Jeff Passan. The Arizona Diamondbacks are acquiring 8-time All-Star third baseman Nolan Arenado in a trade with the St. Louis Cardinals.
Woo! Yes. All right.
It's so funny. We were talking about baseball today for like the first time in weeks, and there you go. Your Cardinals make a move.
Yes. I mean, it was talked about at the winter meetings that they're going to move on from Nolan at some point, but happy he's going back out west. He's a California kid, I believe. So for him to go to Arizona, they kind of need that supplement piece at third base. So good for them.
There you go.
It's a win-win.
Breaking news, Cardinals get off the Nolan Arenado contract.
I wonder if there's any compensation back.
I have not seen it yet, but we can look at that during the break.
Yeah.
Also here, Jeremy Fowler put out an article about the coaching process, and he said, I think Tennessee casts a wide net, names Nagy as the favorite, but says popular candidates such as Harbaugh, Stefanski, and Vance Joseph become strong candidates here. Cam Ward is that well regarded. So That is interesting stuff too. That's why I'm moving up from 15% for Harbaugh to 20. It's more than likely going to be the Giants, but I think if it's not the Giants, I think it's going to be the Titans.
Okay.
615-737-1025 is the phone number. We got one more segment, and we will spend it on the Preds. We meant to talk Preds here. We'll do it coming up next. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly, next man up, 102.5 The Game. Final segment on this Tuesday. Next man up, 102.5 The Game. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly. Chasing Big Joe coming up next. Tomorrow on the program, Corey Curtis is with us for the full show. Lots to talk about in terms of the Titans coaching search. And maybe we'll get some news today about John Harbaugh. I thought we were going to get official interview lists of who he's going to talk to yesterday. Still waiting, so maybe today. But we will have Corey Curtis on for the full show tomorrow. Excited for that. Let's wrap up the show with some Preds talk. Preds hosting the Edmonton Oilers tonight to wrap up this 4-game homestand. I will be at the game tonight. I'm excited. This is my second game over there at Bridgestone.
Do you keep track of like the record of when you attend games?
Yes, I've talked about this before, that I was a curse to the Preds for a long time. Like, not only would they lose, they'd lose like 6-1 every single time I went. It was like my first 5 Preds games, but I finally broke it in early December. I went to the Flames game, and the Preds won that one, I think 5-1. So the curse is broken. We are good to go back to Preds games now.
Well, good.
So we'll see what happens tonight. It is Connor McDavid's birthday.
Oh boy.
So for celebrity birthdays later, if Chase and Big Joe aren't listening, he's 29.
I'll make sure to remember that.
Yeah, Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl coming to Nashville tonight. That is, it's the kryptonite. There's just something about it when they face Edmonton. Those guys see the yellow sweaters and they say, I'm scoring twice tonight, if not more.
I want to know what Leon Draisaitl's regimen is in Nashville. Like, does he go honky-tonking the night before or what? Because
I don't know. Max was going through this with us on Friday that he has, I think, the second most goals scored against Nashville ever, but has done it in half as many games as the number 1 guy. So I think it's Jerome McGinley has the most. So it's crazy. I'm excited to get over there, though. The Preds, they bounced back well on Sunday after the Blackhawks game. Really disappointing. Goalie playing his second game in a back-to-back because they had an illness going through their goalie room.
Right.
And the Preds get blanked, lose 3-0 to a Blackhawks team that had been struggling. That's one of those that, with the way the team had been playing, you expected them to win, and to have a dud like that was disappointing. But a nice job bouncing back on the back-to-back against the Caps, win that one 3-2 on Sunday. And this is an opportunity for the Predators tonight. I believe they're just 2 games back of a playoff spot right now, or 2 points back, excuse me.
Yep.
So if they're able to get a win tonight, could move into a tie unless something's changed. No, yeah, they are 2 points back. The Kings and the Mammoth are tied at 48. So a win tonight, the Predators could be in playoff position. Easier said than done against the Edmonton Oilers, though.
That is true. Our very own Willie Donick had that stat on his Twitter. I think it was yesterday or the day before, with the Preds, with Roman Josi in the lineup, 18-13-2, with him not in the lineup, a losing record of 3-7.
Interesting.
So just keep that in mind.
Yeah, I mean, Roman Josi, he's been playing better. He scored the game winner on Sunday against the Caps, right?
Yeah,
so
I think so.
It's been good to see some of the elite players for this team playing an elite way. I mean, watching what game was that on Thursday? The Islanders game. UC Saros just standing on his head, and he is expected to be in net tonight. So I like the way the Preds have been playing. You're over halfway through the season at this point. You've got little over 10 games left until the Olympic break. A lot of them are at home. You'd love to see them steal a couple of points, at least 1 point against Edmonton tonight at home.
Absolutely. And I think the last time I was on your show with you talking about the Preds was that away trip that they needed to at least get 4 of 6, excluding the Minnesota game. Well, they won the Minnesota game, so they needed to at least get 5 out of 7.
They got 4 out of 7.
4 out of 7's okay.
Including Minnesota. So I think you felt good about that. They kept their head above water. They've won 2 out of 3 here at home,
which is good.
The Blackhawks game was disappointing, but if you said you could get 5 out of 8 points on this homestand with teams like the Islanders, Caps, and Oilers, who are all in playoff position right now, I think the Capitals not in playoff position. They're just outside, but I think you would have felt pretty good about that. Just getting this game to overtime, I think, would be a win for the Predators against Edmonton. The Oilers are coming off a back-to-back, though.
Right.
So maybe there's a chance you could catch them sleeping a little bit. Last night, they beat Chicago on the road 4-1.
Mm-hmm. I mean, looking at the Preds' upcoming schedule, too, minus Edmonton, You're going to Colorado, to Vegas. You're probably, again, you never know what could happen with Colorado. Maybe they start hitting a slump now. Maybe that's the downfall of their season potentially. I doubt it. You just, like you mentioned, get a point from Edmonton. Hey, if you can somehow get the win tonight, that puts you in the driver's seat a little bit to dictate your schedule going forward. Because after those 2 away games, you come back home with a 3-game homestand to end them. I'd almost in the month of January, but
Right. This is a tough week for the Predators. You're hosting Edmonton, who always, they've been to the Cup back-to-back years. Then you go to Colorado, to Vegas on a back-to-back. But things lighten up a little bit after that. 3 straight home games, Buffalo, Ottawa, Utah. Then you get a road trip, and then you come back home for a couple before the Olympic break. There are points to be had over these next couple of weeks. And if you're into the Olympic break and you're even in the position you're in right now, where you're 1, 2, 3 points out of a playoff spot, I think you feel decent about this team, and you've got to start to come up with what your strategy is going to be quick, because once that Olympic break ends, February 26th, they're back in action against the Blackhawks here in Nashville. I believe you have a week, if that, until the trade deadline. So these next couple of weeks are crucial for the Preds if they're going to prove to Barry Trotz in this front office that, first off, they shouldn't be sellers, but maybe they should look to add pieces if they think this team can make a run.
Yeah, and I'm not sure how many of the players are going to the Olympics from the Preds roster, but if there's not that many, that's a good way to kind of heal up and still get some, I guess, coaching done on the downtime in a roundabout way. Almost like on a reset. Everybody uses that U2 reference from a couple years ago.
Yeah.
This could be used as the same form of that, just with a little bit of a longer break.
Yeah, that's what Max said, is that, they'll get some off time like they would for the All-Star break, but a lot of the team outside of the 4 guys who are in the Olympics are going to be right here in Nashville. They're going to be practicing, and maybe that's a chance for a jumping off point for the back half of the season. So Predators back in Bridgestone Arena tonight. That is a 7:00 puck drop. Pregame coverage starts at 6. I'll be out there. I'm excited for it. A game at Bridgestone Arena is always a ton of fun. So let's hope the Preds can get the win and spoil Connor McDavid's birthday as he turns 29.
Okay. Remember that one.
Nick Frazier, always a blast having you on.
Thank you, man. It's always a blast being here.
That'll do it for us. Tomorrow, Corey Curtis from News 2 is with us for the full show. Chase and Big Joe are coming up next here on 102.5 The Game.